bombarded by choices when shopping for new windows or doors, so we're inviting you to experience the Woodland difference. For decades, we have been transforming living spaces with Marvin Windows, a fifth-generation family business. Marvin replacement windows have been known to increase the warmth of your cold rooms by 10 degrees. Think about that, 10 degrees warmer. When you welcome Woodland into your home, you will get a product expert to transform your living spaces, full-time, dedicated professional installers that you can trust in your home, along with the best products like Marvin. These are the reasons we're proud of our 5-star reviews and family legacy. No gimmicks, no pressure, and upfront pricing are why Woodland Windows and Doors is your trusted window and door expert in Chicagoland. Visit woodlandwindows.com to book your free in-home expert consultation. That's woodlandwindows.com, or stop by our showroom at the corner of Lake and Geary in Roselle.
Hey Chicagoland, your trusted friend Jeff here from JeffBuysYourHouse.com. Over the past few months, I've shared how our veteran-led team serves Chicagoland homeowners. Today, I want to share with you what your neighbors are saying about working with us. Like Mary in Downers Grove, who wrote, "They listened to my concerns about moving from my home of 30 years and created a timeline that worked for me." Or Tom and Carol Stream, who said, "Their team helped me sort through 40 years of memories with respect and patience." This is why hundreds of your neighbors have given us a 5-star Google review and an A+ rating with the BBB. We don't just buy houses. We help people through life's transitions with understanding and care. No repairs needed, no cleanout required, and always on your timeline. Ready to work with the home buying team your neighbors trust? Sell your house to the trusted source by calling us at 630-895-9530. That's 630-895-9530 or jeffbuysyourhouse.com.
You need a construction company, but who?
Call Crosscom.
A construction company you can trust that shares your Christian and conservative values. For decades, Crosscom has been doing work in Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana, and Wisconsin. Roofs, siding, windows, doors, gutters, basically everything for your home or business, even solar. Quality work and professional services that make you feel great about your decision to work with Crosscom.
Call Crosscom.
630-871-5500. Give them a chance to earn your business. If your repairs are due to storm, fire, or flood damage, you need to
call Crosscom.
They're licensed public adjusters. They work for you, not the insurance company. Crosscom will work to get you the money you deserve, the maximum payout. They know the insurance companies and how to deal with them. They win for you.
Call Crosscom.
Crosscom Construction and Public Adjusters.
This is Dan Lights with Crosscom. You can trust us with your home or business for high-quality work and fair prices. It's the only way we do business.
630-871-5500. CrosscomPublicAdjusters.com.
Honey, the check engine light just came on and it's making that weird clunking sound again. This is all we needed before vacation. I just know this is going to be a huge repair bill, and our factory warranty expired last month.
Don't you worry your head about it, dear. Remember a few weeks ago when I was looking into vehicle protection plans? I signed us up for CarShield.
You did? But I thought those things were expensive and complicated.
Not CarShield. They have a low-cost month-to-month plan, and it covers our out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Plus, it includes free roadside assistance, free towing, and even car rental options at no additional cost.
Are you serious? So we won't have to pay for covered repairs again?
That's right. They even said we'd pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. It was so easy to get a free quick quote. Now we can focus on our trip instead of repair bills.
Don't wait for a breakdown to realize you need coverage. If you own a vehicle with an auto warranty about to expire or no warranty coverage at all, call CarShield now for your free quick quote. Call 800-330-8323. That's 800-330-8323. Call CarShield now and future-proof your ride. 800-330-8323. Again, 800-330-8323.
The following advertisement includes a celebrity impersonation.
The summer heat in Chicagoland is no joke. And if your old air conditioner is making funny noises, you may already know it's time for a new unit.
Look, your air conditioner, it's a disaster. People are telling me it's the worst ever.
Don't sweat it, literally. When it comes to cooling your home, Air Right Heating and Cooling does it the best.
And they love our country. Beautiful people.
Rebates are still available, financing is flexible, and at Air Right installations are smooth and professional with no surprises.
It's beautiful. Some people say it's the coolest air anyone's ever felt. I don't know. That's just what they're saying. It's doing an incredible job. Really tremendous.
Plus, tell them AM 560 sent you, and Air Right will give you $56 off any service. Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling today at AIR-RITE.com. Again, that's AIR-RITE.com. Air Right Heating and Cooling, doing it right since 1959.
When it comes to vaping, the truth can get clouded. So let's make it clear. Vaping is not safe for kids, teens, or young adults. It's just not.
Because vaping can put microscopic particles into your lungs.
And dangerous things like metals and volatile organic compounds into your body.
And nicotine, the same highly addictive substance found in regular cigarettes. Nicotine can harm a person's brain development through their mid-20s,
affecting learning, memory, attention, and impulse control, and priming the brain for other addictions.
Vaping products also come in kid-friendly flavors that can make them appealing to youth.
And many kids also use other drugs, like marijuana, in vaping devices.
With appealing flavors, high nicotine levels, and lots of promotion on social media,
many kids think vaping is harmless, but it's not.
So talk to your kids about the risks of vaping, because when you talk, they hear you.
For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Matthew.
Huh? Oh, sorry.
It's okay. I just need you to listen to me.
I know that a lot of times, Mom, it might not seem like I'm listening to you, but I am. I hear you. And what you say really does matter to me.
I mean, let's be honest. No kid likes rules, but I get why we have them. I hear you, and I know it's because you care.
All the talks we've had over the years, including what you've told me about not using alcohol and other drugs, they stick with me. And believe it or not, they really do make a difference, especially at times that matter most.
Hey, want a drink?
No thanks, I'm good. So thank you, Dad, for talking and preparing me for what's ahead.
Thanks, Mom, for never giving up and always being my biggest fan.
Thank you for letting me know what you expect, so I can try to meet your expectations.
Thank you for talking.
For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
If you're talking, they will hear you.
We all want our kids to grow up safe and healthy, so we show them how. And we tell them with honest conversations that let them know what we expect. Not just one time, but every chance we get. That's especially important when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. Kids not only need to know the dangers and how to avoid them, they need to hear it often from you. And when it comes to pain medications, opioids, they need to know that they should never be taken without a prescription and never shared with friends or family. It's dangerous and illegal. So talk with your kids and guide them through the challenges of growing up safe and healthy. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
So talk, they hear you. You can do it if you try.
145 over 92.
180 over 111.
182 over 100. And I had a heart attack and a cardiac arrest, and then a stroke.
Your blood pressure numbers could change your life.
A lot of people don't understand, including myself, I didn't, now I do, the impact of having a stroke.
My memory is shot.
When I woke up, I couldn't speak.
Lowering your high blood pressure could save you from a heart attack or stroke. If you've stopped your treatment plan, restart it or talk to your doctor about creating one that works better for you. Start taking the right steps at manageyourbp.org.
It's a new life, but I'm gonna make it better. I'm coming back. Ask your doctor, check your blood pressure.
Brought to you by the American Heart Association, American Medical Association, and the Ad Council.
I'll be here to hear what's on your mind.
Kids want to share what's going on in their lives with the adults around them. Parents, grandparents, teachers, coaches, and more. They want to know you're listening, and they want to listen to you. They want your input and guidance early and often on all kinds of topics. When it comes to a serious subject like underage drinking, they want to know your expectations, as well as how and why as a young person they should avoid alcohol. How you talk about it will change as your child grows, but the important thing is to talk about it. Not just once for an hour when you think the time is right,
but in 60 one-minute conversations and more that are part of your everyday talks. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
When you need me, I'll be by your side.
No word in the English language is less convincing than probably.
Are you sure we should get matching tattoos on our first date?
Sure. We'll probably stay together.
Probably? It's been 23 minutes since I ate. I can probably swim.
You should wait 30 minutes.
Okay, now tell me what to do. Cannonball! Cramp! Oh, I have a cramp.
I can probably hit the green from here.
Probably.
Can I get a mulligan?
Ready to go?
Hey, are you sure you're okay to drive?
Yeah, I'm pretty sober. Yeah, I'm probably okay. Probably okay isn't okay, especially when it comes to drinking and driving. If you're drinking, call a cab, a car, or a friend. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today will be windy and cool with a mix of clouds and sun, reaching a high of 65. Tonight stays breezy early, then turns mainly clear and cool with a low of 48. Tomorrow, expect a blend of sun and clouds, hitting a high of 67. Sunday will be partly sunny with a high of 69. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, and RFK Jr. before the Senate Finance Committee yesterday. The topic mainly about vaccines, the confrontations between him and both Republican as well as Democrat senators, not unlike some of what you may recall from his confirmation hearing. And, there are definitely nuances to his positions these days that perhaps were not there prior to his teaming up with President Trump, prior to his nomination as HHS Secretary, and prior to his tenure as HHS Secretary. So it's interesting to try to pin RFK Jr. down on exactly where he is now versus where he may have been previous to his time on Team Trump, and whether or not there's really been an evolution in his thinking, or there's a combination of some evolution and some alignment with Trump. Look, I serve at the pleasure of the president. This is his agenda, and I'm here to implement his agenda, consistent with my charge as the Secretary of Health and Human Services. But certainly the antipathy coming from the left in the at RFK Jr. is a combination of a couple things. One is they see him as a turncoat who aided and abetted the Trump victory last year. And two, he spends a lot of time attacking some of their key financiers, like Big Pharma. So this was a fairly good representation of how things went between him and members of the Senate on the left. He and Comrade Bernie opened it up on COVID and the COVID vax and whether or not the COVID vax saved lives.
Secretary Kennedy, are President Trump and the medical community right, or do you still believe that the COVID vaccine was, quote, the deadliest vaccine ever made?
No, first of all, I didn't say that. I said that in terms of affairs reports a while ago. I said today, I think that President Trump should get the Nobel Prize.
So who's right? Is Trump in the medical community right, or are you right?
President Trump did an extraordinary piece of leadership.
Is he right or wrong? Did COVID save millions of lives?
As I said, he got Americans back to work. At that time, that particular vaccine was perfectly matched to the virus that was circulating then. And I have no idea how many lives it saved, but it saved quite a few.
Mm-hmm. A point that RFK Jr. made in his rolling back and forth with Comrade Bernie, that's an important one, even if sometimes he's not on the side of established science, or certainly hasn't been in the past. But this is an important distinction he makes that really underscores, at least through my reflections and all the people that we talked to on this program during COVID, really frames the COVID era.
There's a big difference, Senator, between established science and the scientific establishment, which has been co-opted by the pharmaceutical
hold on. So you're telling the American people that the American Medical Association, representing hundreds of thousands of people, have been co-opted and that they should not trust their doctors? And the American Academy of Pediatrics, and by the way, just for the record, every single Republican, I don't mean to be political here, Mr. Chairman, has received PAC money from the pharmaceutical industry. Are they all corrupt as well?
And I'm telling you, the American Heart Association has been co-opted by the
everybody but you, Senator. But you know what? When you ran for president, we have a corrupt campaign finance system. Maybe you will agree with me on that. Okay, you were already president, you got a billionaire behind it. You received $300,000 from people, not from the industry, people in it, as I did, from individuals. You corrupt. President Trump got $3 million. Every Republican got corporate PAC money for the pharmaceutical industry. Democrats as well. Everybody is corrupt. But you?
Well, the established science versus the scientific establishment, that's a nice parallel dichotomy that he presents, because that really was a distinction during COVID, and it's been a distinction during all sorts of rows within the quote-unquote scientific community or over the science and data on a particular issue. And, oh, by the way, the appeal to authority, the AMA, how dare you question the integrity of the AMA, the American Pediatric Association, how dare you besmirch the pristine reputation of these advocacy organizations that represent thousands of doctors and so on and so forth. Spare me. Just holster it, Comrade Bernie, is what he should have said. Are you kidding me? It's not just on COVID that they have politicized the science, that they act as political actors. It's on a range of issues. The AMA going back to backing Obamacare. They're not political organizations that take political positions in part for political positioning for their industry to protect the little cartel that they have going on, to keep the barriers of entry, to reduce competition, to align with the political dispositions of their leadership or even their rank and file. I mean, they have taken absurd positions, not just on COVID and all of the junk science or complete absence of science that undergirded the COVIDian policies, from idiot circles and masks to lockdowns, but on transing kids. I mean, come on. I love the Bernie Sanders, and by the way, when Bernie Sanders is running to the defense of the AMA and the American Pediatric Association, that should tell you a lot about what the American Medical Association and the American Pediatric Association and similarly politicized advocacy organizations for their members have become. Absolutely, they have been corrupted, not just by pharma, but by politics in general. That was a moment that deserves some explication. There were others, and we want to get to sort of the statement of principle that RFK Jr. led off the hearing with, statement of principle on COVID, that we were lied to on just about everything. We'll do that at 5:38. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It's 59 degrees in Chicago in the AM 560 The Answer newsroom. I'm Nikki Whaley. Washington, D.C. is taking the Trump administration to court over the deployment of National Guard troops. The lawsuit argues that Trump has run a roughshod over the fundamental tenet of American democracy that the military should not be involved in domestic law enforcement. Again, we're not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic. This comes after the federal judge ruled earlier this week that the Trump administration's deployment of National Guard troops in California was illegal. And President Trump is lowering Japanese auto tariffs. He signed the order yesterday. He's reducing U.S. tariffs on Japanese vehicles from 27.5% to 15%. They take effect at the end of the month. And Hawaii is the latest to join a coalition in opposition to Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. The coalition was announced Wednesday and will include the Democratic-led West Coast states of California, Oregon, and Washington. Hawaii's Governor Josh Green says joining the West Coast Health Alliance will give Hawaii's people the same consistent evidence-based guidance they can trust to keep their families and neighbors safe. This report is sponsored by Allstate. Some people just know you can save money on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Those people are probably saving a carload of cash right now. So what are you waiting for? Check Allstate first with a quote today. You're in good hands with Allstate. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now let's check your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Hugh Hewitt isn't sure the Democrats can come back to the center.
The Democrats are dancing on the cliff of the left that they may fall off of. Can they possibly recover? Can they get back to anything approaching the 40-yard line? Their own 40. I don't know. A few people said they already are falling. They're in free fall.
The Hugh Hewitt Show. Afternoons at 2, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
President Trump has made some pretty amazing claims since he's taken his seat as president. He's delivering on what he promised. On Inauguration Day, Trump's very first declaration was,
"The golden age of America begins right now. From this day forward, our country will flourish."
Consider this. Since the election, gold has shot up hundreds of dollars per ounce, shattering all-time record highs. Fox Valley Coins does not pretend to know the future, but they do know that if you're buying or selling gold or silver, they are the place to do it. These are some of the top reasons people choose a dealer. You want a national dealer with a local presence you can deal with face-to-face. You want a large selection, the best prices, and great service. You want to walk in with cash and walk out with the best product. You want to deal with legacy dealers with integrity. Whether buying or selling, or just one valuation, Fox Valley Coins is your answer for choosing a dealer. Visit Fox Valley Coins, 1 light north of I-88 on Route 59 at the Naperville-Warrenville border. FoxValleyCoins.com. Family-owned integrity since 1981.
You need to be tuning into the Retirement Success Blueprint with Michael Stewart, the radio companion to the Amazon best-selling book, Success Blueprint, How to Build the Retirement You Deserve. Each week, Michael shares strategies designed to help reduce market risk through income-generating investments that can provide steady returns. Because if you can avoid a big loss, you don't need to take big risks. Catch the Retirement Success Blueprint with Michael Stewart, Saturday mornings at 10, right here on AM 560 The Answer.
Salem News Channel is America's fastest growing conservative TV network.
It's an absolute crazy day.
Home to the largest lineup of free speech champions anywhere, delivering in-depth insight and unapologetic opinion on today's biggest news stories.
Americans aren't going to put up with this anymore.
SNC brings you the news that matters, told with integrity and clarity. Watch Salem News Channel free 24/7 on your television. Stream now on Samsung TV Plus, channel 1177.
Nothing makes a gathering great like Eggland's Best Eggs. They're just so delicious with better nutrition, too. For us, it's eggs any style, as long as they're the best. Eggland's Best.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today will be windy and cool with a mix of clouds and sun, reaching a high of 65. Tonight stays breezy early, then mainly clear and cool with a low of 48. Tomorrow, expect a blend of sun and clouds, hitting a high of 67. Sunday will be partly sunny with a high of 69. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
morning. Dan Proft here talking about RFK Jr.'s testimony before the Senate Finance Committee yesterday. Taking your calls, 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. He got into it, of course, with Comrade Bernie and other senators on the left, including Lizzie Warren, Senator Sacagawea from Massachusetts. You heard the Comrade Bernie exchange. We were discussing a little bit about the distinction that RFK Jr. made between the scientific establishment and established science. The two are not synonymous. And the scientific establishment, as has been documented, as we were just discussing, often runs afoul of established science for political reasons, as it did so often during COVID. Doesn't mean that the RFK Jr. doesn't have positions to account for as well, but the idea that we should just default to the supposed reputations of these advocacy organizations like AMA after everything that we've experienced in the last half dozen years is completely ridiculous. Completely ridiculous. And yet we still had a lot of rhetoric coming from both sides of the aisle that suggested deference to medical experts as if they're monolithic. And as if some of the medical experts who are now in positions of authority within public health agencies were not silenced and sidelined during COVID by said scientific establishment, as distinguished from the established science. The exchange between Liz Warren and Liz Warren and RFK Jr., it was sort of a redux of, in part, what Bernie Sanders and RFK tussled over, in part what you may recall from the tussle that Warren and RFK Jr. had during his confirmation hearing. There's a real dislike. Real dislike here, as so it makes it sort of enjoyable to watch. There's particular disdain to which RFK brings every conversation with Elizabeth Warren, which is not inappropriate. But this is how that went with respect to the promise of COVID booster accessibility.
Let's clear this up right now, Secretary Kennedy. Will you tell America that all adults and all children over 6 months of age are eligible to get a COVID booster at their local pharmacy today?
Anybody can get the booster.
I'm sorry?
Anybody can get it, Senator.
Anybody. So you're saying that is now the official rule of HHS. Anybody is eligible to get a booster by just walking into the pharmacy.
It's not recommended for healthy people.
No. If you don't recommend, then the consequence of that in many states is that you can't walk into a pharmacy and get one. It means insurance companies don't have to cover the $200 or so cost. As Senator Dr. Cassidy said, you are effectively denying people vaccines.
We're not going to recommend a product for which there's no clinical data for that indication. Is that what I should be doing?
What you should be doing is honoring your promise that you made when you were looking to get confirmed in this job.
You're going like this.
And that is, you promised that you would not take away vaccines from anyone who wanted them. You just changed the classification of the COVID vaccine.
I'm not taking them away from people, Senator.
It takes it away if you can't get it from your pharmacist.
Well, most Americans are going to be able to get it from their pharmacy for free. Most Americans will be able to get it from their pharmacy for free.
The question is everyone who wants it. That was your promise.
I never promised that I was going to recommend products with which there is no indication.
When you said...
And I know you've taken $855,000 from pharmaceutical companies, Senator.
Did you hold up a big sign saying that you were lying when you said that? Because you are the one who said you would not take them away. Now, Senator Kennedy,
I'm not taking them away from anybody.
Secretary,
you want me to indicate a product for which there is no clinical data?
Senator,
Is that what you want?
Secretary Kennedy, you said you wouldn't, and now you did.
I'm not
So
taking them away.
obviously-
Everybody can get access to them.
No, they can't walk into a pharmacy the way they could last month and get access.
It
to a
depends on the
vaccine.
it depends on the states.
Depends. A year ago,
But they can
it
still
did
get
not
it.
depend.
Everybody can get
A month
it.
ago, it did
Everybody
not
can
depend.
get it, Senator.
So look,
Everybody can get it. It's not good enough. You know the left's posture when it comes to their beliefs. You're not allowed to the option to believe what I believe. You're not only going to believe what I believe, you're going to celebrate it too. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro. I'm not going to recommend it. It's available. If you want the booster or you want to give your child the booster, you can do that, but you're not going to get me to be a party to it. That's not good enough. You have to endorse it and celebrate it. Endorse and promote. Yes. We're not going to tolerate your tolerance for disagreement. You see, it plays itself out in all sorts of colorful ways. The command control approach of the left to their policy agenda, doesn't it? And the reason, well, I mean, first of all, I'd be interested. I haven't seen a recent measure on the demand for these boosters. You know, I'm excited to get my 17th COVID shot, and who it really protects at this point, allegedly. And this was actually a point that he made. RFK Jr. did. And again, it may be that his language wasn't as nuanced as it should have been previously, or he's come to a new nuanced understanding. But he got into a back and forth with Republican Senator Bill Cassidy from Louisiana, who was a RFK skeptic because of a perception that RFK Jr. was a vaccine skeptic when he was nominated and through the confirmation process. But they did go back and forth on this issue, and RFK Jr. offered a distinction about the initial vaccine, the product of Operation Warp Speed, and subsequent boosters like the one Lizzie Warren is clamoring for.
It also surprises me because you've canceled, or HHS did, but apparently under your direction, $500 million in contracts using the mRNA vaccine platform that was critical to Operation Warp Speed. Again, an accomplishment that I think President Trump should get a Nobel Prize for. You canceled $500 million in contracts. Now, I grew up in a middle-class family, so $500 million seems just to cancel. It seems like an incredible waste of money. But it also seems like a commentary upon what the president was attempting, what the president did in Operation Warp Speed, which is to create a platform by which to create vaccines. So this just seems inconsistent that you would agree with me the president deserves a tremendous amount of credit for this.
Is this a question, Senator Cassidy, or is this the speech that you don't want me to answer? Because I want to answer that question.
Please.
If it's a question.
But be tight, please.
First of all, the reason that Operation Warp Speed was genius is it did something nobody had ever been done. I don't think any president, but President Trump could do it. It got the vaccine to market that was perfectly matched to the virus at that time when it was badly needed, because there was low natural immunity and there were people getting very badly injured by COVID. But it was also brought in therapeutics like hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin and protocols for treatments. And there were no mandates. And then
okay, I have another question, so please.
That's when I began litigating against President Biden's mandates. Now,
I'm sorry, let me go on because
in terms of me canceling those contracts,
I have limited time, Mr. Secretary. I'm sorry.
So, right, yeah, the limited time. It mainly was a speech, but at least Kennedy got that in to distinguish his position. Look. He built this platform, which is unprecedented, agreed with Cassidy that actually Trump is deserving of the Nobel Prize for it. It matched the virus at the time. The virus is mutated. There have been boosters produced in response. The clinical data is dubious, if in some cases existent at all. And we're not in the same place with respect to natural immunity that we were in the early days of COVID, of course, either, now several years removed. And we know a lot more about harmful side effects and the relative risk of side effects from the vaccine versus eerie incidences of serious illness from the virus, with all the discussions that we've had for years now about myocarditis and pericarditis, particularly among young, otherwise healthy people. And we're still learning. I mentioned this piece from Alex Berenson this week, who reported on a preprint on of research, more research into the mRNA vaccines. The COVID spike protein from mRNA COVID jabs can cause dominant HIV-infected cells to become active. Researchers found in a preprint posted recently. The research doesn't prove people with HIV who received mRNA shots are at higher risk for developing full-blown AIDS, but it provides more evidence of how mRNAs do cause powerful immune system changes with effects that scientists still don't fully understand. So, there's a lot of unsettled science, as there normally is. There's a lot of investigation under work. We're learning new things. It raises some concerns. We don't necessarily know in this narrow instance if there's a definitive heightened risk for HIV patients. But I mean, this would be something you would go right back with Warren and say, look, this just out this week, something else that has been identified that presents concerns and is worthy of more investigation. And mRNAs, as a new technology, are worthy of continued investigation, generally speaking, not in just this narrow sense. And we're going to go where the science leads and make recommendations based on that, which is essentially the position that RFK Jr. took throughout his testimony. It didn't seem particularly unreasonable to me. He didn't come across to me as an anti-vax ideologue, which he has been accused of being. And again, there's some basis for statements he's previously made suggesting linkages that have not been scientifically proven, vaccines and autism, for example. So, I had my own skepticisms about RFK Jr. too, but then you watch what he does and the approach that he's taken and the position that he holds, and it seems to me he's been fairly pragmatic. Now, he may have a different, the composition of the immunization board that provides advice and counsel may be different than the, pharma-owned and operated politicians that were interrogating him would like to see in terms of who's on that board and who's making those recommendations. But it's okay to be skeptical. I mean, it's okay to demand things as long as you're open-minded to where the evidence takes you. And that generally seemed to me the position that RFK Jr. was taking. 312-642-5600, Turnkey.pro answer line. Mark, Oaklawn.
Dan, thanks for taking my call. That mRNA, Malone was the scientist that manufactured it and created it. And later he came out and he said that it was unsafe. So there's another reason to be a little skeptical and to investigate a little bit more. But, that person that was fired, Dimitri, he was the second person in the CDC.
Yes, the monkeypox czar. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he also made a comment that he was the vaccine expert with pregnancy, and he said he could help the vaccines for pregnancy people. And that was a quote. He used the word.
Yeah,
people.
We talked about that. Yeah, pregnant people. Yes, he is.
If he can't even tell the difference between, he doesn't know what a woman is. And this guy is supposed to be the expert.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Mark. Yeah, this Dimitri Daskalakis, who is a bondage S&M enthusiast. These are pictures that are all over the internet in terms of floating around when he was installed in this post at HHS. And then he made this big public resignation, and it's over vaccine policy, and he's got to keep people safe and this and that. He's the same guy. We played the clip of him the other day when talking about the threat of monkeypox, particularly among gay people, gay men, and it, that you have to understand that one person's risk is another person's joy. I mean, is that a medical opinion? Pregnant people, as Mark just referenced to, is that a medical opinion? Men can get pregnant? But perish the thought that politics enters into these scientific discussions. Of course it does, all the time. And RFK Jr.'s statement at the outset of it, too, good to hear. This is essentially prompted by Senator John Cornyn, but, just a little summary of what we all experienced during COVID with all these COVIDians moralizing from their perches on the Senate Finance Committee yesterday.
Do you believe COVID-19 was politicized? Yeah, the whole process was politicized. Senator, I mean, we were lied to about everything. We were lied to about natural immunity. We were lied to about, we were told again and again the vaccines would prevent transmission, they'd prevent infection. It wasn't true. They knew it from the start it wasn't true because that's what the animal studies and the clinical trials showed. We were told that there was science behind cloth masks. The CDC allowed the teachers union to write the order closing our schools, which hurt working people all over the country, and then pretend it was science-based. All of these issues, and then I can show you, like, for example, Chairman Wyden was talking about me politicizing ACIP, but during COVID, probably the most famous scientist on ACIP was Martin Kulldorff from Harvard, the great world-renowned epidemiologist and vaccinologist. And he criticized the COVID booster mandates. They ejected him from COVID because he wasn't in the orthodoxy. The two biggest health officials at FDA during COVID, Dr. Gruber and Dr. Krause, criticized the Biden mandates, vaccine mandates. President Biden said in August, I would never take that vaccine, the Trump vaccine. And he came in, he mandated it, and then he fired the two top health officials at FDA who said, hey, this thing has not been properly tested. So the whole process was politicized, and even today.
100%. How many times did we have Martin Kulldorff on this show talking about these very issues? Many, many. Glenn in the Western Burbs.
Yeah, good morning, Dan. I was riveted watching that whole testimony yesterday. And I became interested in, they talk about the health conditions of the citizens being degrading. I also think there's a huge degrading of the mental health conditions of the senators, and maybe they should be evaluated for their ethics and their mental health conditions. I don't, the 6 foot rule. I have less trust in the medical establishment today than I did yesterday.
Well, that's it. Thanks for the call, Glenn. I mean, that's not a consequence of RFK's skepticism. It's a consequence of the experts' performance. So when, the Wall Street Journal opined the other day about the drop in measles vaccination rates, and they sort of put RFK Jr. in the same category as Fauci. I think that's more than a little unfair to RFK Jr. It's the performance that we saw from Fauci and Birx and what we came, some of us late in the game, to understand what was true or what was certainly unsubstantiated, if not untrue. The admissions after the fact in interviews that Fauci gave where, I don't really know where that 6 foot rule came from. The about faces, you want to talk about RFK having some about faces or partial about faces. The about faces that Fauci and others had in real time. Masks, these cloth masks, surgical masks don't do anything to prevent transmission. No, they do prevent transmission. Be respectful of your neighbor and do it because it will stop or slow the spread. I mean, all the sloganeering. I can't even bring myself to repeat it anymore. I don't want it to get out of my head and not to sit there as a sort of the poisoned rhetoric from central planners, the COVIDian central planners. I mean, it's just the typical thing. I mean, it's them covering their own backsides. There's never going to be any admissions of politicization, of rushes to judgment, of behavior even more cynical than that, for the purposes of power grabs and subjugation, the indifference to the impact on kids and their intellectual, social, emotional development with school closures, the spike in suicides and deaths of despair, drug use. And not to mention, for all these vaccine hawks, not all of them, not so many on the Republican side, but certainly the Comrade Bernies and the Crocodilias. And I mean, wait, aren't you the same people who rallied and provided political support to an open borders policy that invited 25 million unvaccinated people into this country? I mean, these infectious disease outbreaks from diseases we thought we had put in our rearview mirror, like measles, they're coming from the indigenous population as much as they're coming from populations from the developing world that aren't on the same vaccine regimens that American children are, per school mandates and so forth, which is a whole nother topic we'll get to later. But I mean, the gall of some of these politicians. But I get it. What else is new? George in Naperville.
Yes, I think Kennedy should have relied on the Native American band Redbone to give Pocahontas peace of mind. Hey, come and get your booster.
Okay, George. Thank you for that contribution. Too bad you weren't there for some comic relief. I just on the I don't know, do we have time? On the firing of that Daskalakis character, there was an exchange between Senator Ben Ray Lujan of Mexico and RFK Jr. At least a portion of this is pretty good.
Secretary Kennedy, Dr. Daskalakis, who recently resigned as director of the National Center for Immunization and Respiratory Diseases, his resignation letter stated he and his team were never allowed to brief you. I'm curious who you're listening to, since it's clear you're not listening to qualified experts like Dr. Daskalakis. Can you give the committee the name of the person?
I don't consider Dr. Daskalakis.
Mr. Secretary, the question that I have for you is, can you give the committee a name of who you're getting briefed by?
I'm getting briefed by all the time by CDC.
Just a name.
Dr. William Thompson's one name.
Mr. Kennedy, you hired a man named David Geyer to conduct this study. Is that correct?
He just goes on to say he's ridiculous, which is he is. It's 6 o'clock, AM 560 WIND Chicago.
I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. This is what President Trump plans to do by executive order today, rebranding the Department of Defense to what it used to be called.
The president will change the name to Department of War to project a tough image for America's military. The name cannot be formally changed without legislation, which the administration will request from Congress. Democrats oppose the move, but Republican Senator Rick Scott is urging lawmakers to codify it.
Fox's Marianne Rafferty. The change makes it a secondary name for the department for now, and they'll start calling Pete Hegseth the Secretary of War. He's defending the U.S. military strike this week, destroying a boat off the coast of Venezuela that Hegseth says was full of terrorist gang members transporting illegal drugs.
Every boatload of any form of drug that poisons the American people is an imminent threat.
In response, 2 Venezuelan fighter jets flew over a U.S. Navy ship that was part of a recent deployment in the Caribbean. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is in Ecuador, where he designated 2 gangs foreign terrorist organizations. National Guard troops will remain on patrol in Washington, D.C. through November. Fox's Jared Halpern's at the White House.
The National Guard was activated as part of President Trump's surge of federal law enforcement to combat crime in D.C. The extension of the troop presence comes as the D.C. Attorney General filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration, arguing the deployment is an illegal military occupation.
Democrats are also pushing back, threatening legal action in other cities the president is considering sending troops to. President reiterating support for Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. after a contentious hearing at the Senate.
76.4% of Americans now have a chronic disease. This is stunning.
Democrats like Senator Ron Wyden, very critical.
You've sat in that chair for how long? 20, 25 years, while the chronic disease in our children went up to 76%. And you said nothing.
America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It's 60 degrees in Chicago in the AM 560 The Answer newsroom. I'm Nikki Whaley. Governor Pritzker is vowing to take action if the president sends the National Guard to Chicago. The governor said his office will immediately go to court if military troops are sent to the city.
So that's going to be our first line of defense, is getting a court to issue a TRO or other injunction against that activity.
Pritzker says he expects federal immigration agents to assemble in the Chicago area today and begin actions tomorrow. He called on anyone planning to protest to do so peacefully. And the Chicago Teachers Union is preparing students and their families for immigration raids and the possibility of the National Guard. CTU President Stacey Davis Gates says their goal is to protect the students and their loved ones.
We are in community with these young people. We care deeply for them, and we're going to demonstrate that care and that concern. And because we respect and honor the families and the grown-ups that they come from,
teachers today will be handing out Know Your Rights flyers and organizing teams to monitor the area around schools. Gates also urged Chicago Public Schools to be ready to offer online learning options for families who want to keep their children at home. And a Mexican Independence Day celebration in Chicago is being postponed due to possible ICE activity in the city. The El Grito Festival was planned for September 13th and 14th in Grant Park's Butler Field. Organizers say the festival's location made it a more visible target for ICE agents. New dates weren't announced, and organizers vowed to return once conditions allow. News is a service of Air Right Heating and Cooling, offering AM 560 listeners $56 off of any service, including inspections. Don't wait for a heat wave for that old air conditioner to break down. Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling today at AIR-RITE.com. Again, that's AIR-RITE.com. A check of the roads coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
Larry Elder always brings the facts.
And one of the things that the FBI has done is studied the sort of psychology and just the phenomenon that we live through uniquely in this country.
Uniquely in this country, if you compare the annual death rate from mass public shootings from January 2009 to December 2015, for example, death rate per million, number one was Norway. U.S. isn't until number 11.
The Larry Elder Show, weeknights at 8, right before Sean Hannity at 10 on AM 560. The Answer.
Millions are choosing NordVPN to stay safer online. Get NordVPN today with 77% off and up to 3 months extra. NordVPN will encrypt your online traffic and help you avoid phishing, scams, and malware. Get the special NordVPN deal today at nordvpn.com. This offer includes a 77% discount on a 2-year plan and up to 3 extra months. Savings and additional terms apply and can be found on nordvpn.com. The offer is valid until October 15th.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at ethos.com/term. That's ethos.com/term.
When the power goes out, life stops. Heat, AC, fridge, phones, all gone. But with a Generac home standby generator from True Power Generator Service, your home powers back on automatically, so you're never left in the dark. Book your consultation today at TruePowerGenerator.com. That's TruePowerGenerator.com. And right now, AM 560 listeners get a free 10-year extended warranty with their Generac. True Power Generator Service and Generac. It's not just a generator, it's a power move.
Sign up for the AM 560 Answer Advantage to get early alerts on event ticket sales, special discounts, and contest opportunities. Sign up today at 560theanswer.com/advantage.
Wealth Health Radio.
The biggest fears that people have is, do I have enough money to retire?
Retirement doesn't have to be complicated.
To make sure that you're going through retirement with confidence.
Learn principles of income planning.
There's a lot of different facets that you need to take into consideration when you're retiring.
Tune into Wealth Health Radio with Joe Murphy, noon to 1 p.m. Sundays on AM 560. The Answer.
At AlmostFreeTeeth.com, they're dedicated to making smiles great again. If you have medical PPO insurance, find out how you could save 90% off on average to get a beautiful dental implant supported smile. Check if you qualify right now at AlmostFreeTeeth.com.
From the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Nikki Whaley. On the Edens, inbound from Lake Cook to Montrose, 14 minutes, outbound 14 minutes. On the Kennedy, inbound from Montrose to the Byrne interchange, about 11 minutes. Outbound is about 10 minutes. On the Eisenhower, inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 13 minutes. Outbound is about 15 minutes. That's due to a stalled semi. Right lanes blocked between Manheim and the Tri-State. Traffic is a service of Team Hochberg. They've helped thousands of AM 560 listeners with the best rates and service. Let Team Hochberg help you by visiting 56david.com or call 855-563-2843. That's 56david.com, lower.com, equal housing lender, NMLS 1124061. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be windy and cool with a mix of clouds and sun, reaching a high of 65. Tonight stays breezy early, then turns mainly clear and cool with a low of 48. Tomorrow expect a blend of sun and clouds, hitting a high of 67. Sunday will be partly sunny with a high of 69. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Forever Remodeling. Stress-free and high-quality remodeling. View their stunning transformations online at the number 4everremodeling.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. As you heard on the news, Jelly Belly, of course, threatening to immediately go to court if President Trump scrambles the National Guard and sends it Chicago bound, ostensibly to back the play of the surge in ICE resources and ICE enforcement operations in Chicagoland. Would that be warranted? Well, I guess, maybe if you picked your head up and looked around the country, you might see where you can make a pretty good case that if there are ICE operations, heightened ICE operations in Chicago, that maybe you do want somebody covering their back because the local politicians are telling federal law enforcement that we won't have your back. Not the police themselves, but the local politicians. Don't think that can happen in an American city? Let's visit Portland, shall we?
Anti-ICE protesters in Portland, Oregon, rolling out a guillotine, clashing with police and turning the streets into a battlefield outside a migrant detention facility there. It's the latest flashpoint in protests that has stretched nearly 3 months now. A Democrat mayor, Keith Wilson, stands firm on keeping Portland a migrant sanctuary city. Our correspondent Dan Springer has that story for us. So, Dan, are we expecting more unrest?
Every night it happens, Sandra, and this is happening just outside of an ICE facility with hundreds of Portland residents living in apartments right across the street, and Portland police will not engage out of some fear that it will be perceived as helping ICE in violation of the sanctuary law.
Fox News reporting, so you caught that last part, right? The Portland Police Department won't assist ICE in the sense of enforcing Portland law, Oregon law, with respect to these Antifa goons who are confronting police, engaging in violent acts. They won't enforce the law because they don't want to be perceived by the political authorities as helping ICE, thereby rank and file police officers fear losing their jobs because of how politicized law enforcement has become. Pretty strong case to make for Trump to make. Look, Tom Homan and the ICE officers are going to be looking for people who pose public safety threats that are residing in around Chicago. They'll be operating out of a Broadview base camp, if you will. And if we can't count on Pritzker and particularly Brandon Johnson to okay the police to do their job, not ICE's job, to do their job of corralling anybody who would act illegally in the direction of ICE, then I got to bring in my own people. I'm going to need to federalize the National Guard to provide protection for federal law enforcement officers who are doing their jobs, since the politicians in Chicago won't let Chicago police do their jobs. Make sense? I mean, none of it makes sense, but you understand the argument to be made, and Portland is a particularly salient case study, wouldn't you say? 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line and text line. So don't tell me there's no basis for it, and don't tell me it's a manufactured crisis, because all you do is pick your head up and look around. And, you know, Pritzker saying he's going to go to court. Of course he is. This is built into the price. It's another opportunity to perform before your unhinged base. The way that Muriel Bowser is performing right now in D.C., she's reported on the significant drop in crime, violent crime in D.C. over the last few weeks, basically conceding the point that the National Guard has been helpful. And she's, I mean, it's not her, but it is. And the Attorney General for the District of Columbia is going to court to attempt to enjoin the president from using the power he does have over D.C. statutorily, black letter law, to deploy the National Guard there. Even if it's working, in addition to being clearly within the president's authority with respect to D.C., which is unique, as we've discussed at quite some length, they still are going to go to court to enjoin it, because you have to oppose everything that Trump does, regardless of its legitimacy or effectiveness. That's the position of the left. And it couldn't be any clearer from D.C. to Portland and everywhere in between. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. Corey Woodlawn.
Hey, thanks for taking the call this morning, Dan. You know, the problem with this, to me, is that everyone that lives in these neighborhoods have seen this problem play out for decades on our family. I've got friends that I don't even have anymore. They're completely dead. This problem has been brewing in the city for decades, and no one wants to lift a finger. Our police officers that have taken an oath to protect this city would rather come to barbecues and hangouts in the neighborhood and be totally absent when it comes down to crime. This goes exactly for the aldermen as well. They should be ashamed of themselves.
Yeah, well, and Corey, you know what, too, that's all characterized as, building trust in the community. You know how you build trust in the community? You just hang out. Well, no, but I mean, but what they argue is you just hang out with people and you don't actually do your job. That's how you build trust.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Corey. Appreciate it. Yeah, you can understand Corey's frustration. Well, you could really understand it if you had lived the experiences that Corey has shared with us on this show. But, it's just big city living. Crime is something that happens in big cities, as Jelly Belly said on his morning stroll with Marianne Ahern. Speaking of how long this has been going on, a friend of mine recently alerted me to this interesting report. Just thinking about a bygone era in Illinois. And to Corey's point again, how many generations we've been having the same conversation to varying degrees as the problem has presented itself to varying degrees. Illegal aliens in Joliet. A report to the Illinois General Assembly. July of 1978. This 35-page report goes through the situation with illegal Mexican aliens in Joliet. And then sort of a larger conversation, puts it in a national context. Here's the work product of this investigation. A resolution that was sponsored in June of 77, sort of model resolution. June of 77. Whereas it has come to the attention of this body that the city of Joliet may be the main distribution point for illegal aliens coming into the Chicago area from Mexico. And whereas the United States Immigration and Naturalization Service reports that some 20 to 50 illegal aliens are brought to Joliet weekly, particularly from Guanajuato, Mexico. And whereas the aliens are reportedly delivered to jobs in the Chicago area by area residents. And whereas it is theorized that there is that the system is perpetuated by the families and friends of the aliens who pay about $1,000 per person to have each alien brought here, of which about $250 goes to the Joliet distributors, the aliens usually paying off the fee at $50 per month. And whereas it is felt that there is a formal organization in Joliet to handle distribution, supply documents needed and locate jobs for aliens transported here, which results in a multi-million-dollar smuggling business. And whereas the Midwest Director of Immigration estimates that there are 300,000 illegal aliens in the Chicago area, of which about 160,000 are employed, with most of the jobs being in light industry, and the employed aliens being the main target of immigration investigations. And whereas busloads of 25 to 45 discovered aliens leave Chicago for the return to Mexico at least 3 times per week, and the 900 officers of the United States returned over 800,000 illegal aliens last year, yet the process is slowed by other involvements of officers in fraud, narcotics, and other crimes. And it is felt that only the tip of the iceberg has been reached, with many such aliens returning shortly to their jobs. And whereas the aliens themselves are often open to extortion by the smugglers, especially once jobs are obtained, females are often forced to work as prostitutes, and the aliens often used in some ways by the narcotics rings, usually connected with the alien smuggling operations. And whereas the problem is clearly one which requires a serious and broad base of effort to obtain progress in the control and eradication of an economic and inhumane blight, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate of the 18th General Assembly of the State of Illinois that the Illinois Legislative Investigating Commission is directed to investigate the alleged transporting of illegal aliens to Joliet as the main distribution point of such aliens to the Chicago area from Mexico, and to report its findings and conclusions to the Illinois General Assembly as soon as possible. Does that sound like a familiar story? What they were detailing was happening in 1977 in Joliet. And so they reported their findings, which basically is to confirm everything they laid out there. And, interesting, just some of the signatories on this report that was submitted for Illinois General Assembly consideration, signed by others, by many others, but including James Pate Phillip and Philip Rock. Pate Phillip and Phil Rock are signatories to this resolution and this report and this issue. And for those who don't know, Phil Rock was a Democrat Senate president, and Pate Phillip later would be a Republican Senate president. Huh. How about that? Republicans and Democrats in the General Assembly on opposite sides in leadership. You should read this report. And maybe I'll figure a way to I got a PDF of it. I'll figure a way to post it. But it's just fascinating to read. 1977, 78, we're talking about. They're talking about what Carter is doing and what he's not doing with respect to border security. So almost 50 years ago. And just in that one-page resolution, how similar is it to everything being documented today? The only difference is scale and going rates for coyotes and traffickers. You know, inflation and all. That's the only difference. But the other difference is that this problem persists. The other difference is that one of the two parties whose leaders had signed on to that resolution, who are part of this joint investigation, one of the party's members has changed a bit from 1977 to present, haven't they? Where what they used to understand was a bug, they now believe to be a feature. And that's what you have on display in Chicago in real time with Jelly Belly, with BLM Brandon, with the entire power structure of that party at the city, the county, and the state level. Big difference. It's a big change in 50 years, isn't it? Change for the better, do you think?
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Hey, this is Sean Thompson. You know, there's an old joke about Uncle Sam's tax short form. The first line says, "How much did you make?" The next line says, "Send it in." Sadly, that's not funny at all for honest people who pay taxes. But that's exactly what a lot of people do in their retirement. They take money out of their 401k and their IRA, and they send it into the IRS. Tom Fortino of Alpha Wealth Group believes there's a better plan for your retirement than Uncle Sam's plan of send it in. What if your current plan includes thousands of dollars in unnecessary taxes and fees? What if you're headed for higher Medicare payments, lower Social Security checks? What if the savings you may realize allows you to retire even earlier? Wouldn't you want to know all of that right now? Call Tom Fortino and the team at Alpha Wealth Group and find out today. Call 630-864-6711. The number again, 630-864-6711. You can also visit alphawealthgroup.com to schedule your no-obligation consultation.
Chicago businesses, you can't afford to be down. You don't have time to wait for IT support. You need one company that does IT well and does it right. Meet Access One, your local Chicagoland IT experts. Access One has been powering Chicago businesses with secure, reliable IT solutions for over 30 years from our headquarters right here in the West Loop. Whether it's VoIP phones, dedicated internet, managed cybersecurity, cloud backups, or 24/7 support, Access One is here for you. Chicago owned, Chicago run, and serving thousands of companies from Naperville to the North Shore. Access One is the trusted IT partner for law firms, clinics, tech startups to manufacturers. Rated top 5% in customer satisfaction and a Better Business Bureau A+ rated business. Access One is your one vendor for everything tech. Let's talk. Call 800-804-8333 or visit accessoneInc.com. That's accessoneInc.com. Tech made personal, locally.
The following advertisement includes a celebrity impersonation.
The summer heat in Chicagoland is no joke. And if your old air conditioner is making funny noises, you may already know it's time for a new unit.
Look, your air conditioner, it's a disaster. People are telling me it's the worst ever.
Don't sweat it, literally. When it comes to cooling your home, Air Right Heating and Cooling does it the best.
And they love our country. Beautiful people.
Rebates are still available, financing is flexible, and at Air Right installations are smooth and professional with no surprises.
It's beautiful. Some people say it's the coolest air anyone's ever felt. I don't know. That's just what they're saying. It's doing an incredible job, really tremendous.
Plus, tell them AM 560 sent you and Air Right will give you $56 off any service. Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling today at AIR-RITE.com. Again, that's AIR-RITE.com. Air Right Heating and Cooling, doing it right since 1959.
It's more than a backyard. It's a place where lazy afternoons turn into lively evenings, and simple moments become lifelong memories. Right at the center of it all, you deck. The stage for your best moments and everyday magic. But the outdoors can be tough on wood. Fading colors, weathered boards, and hidden damage creeping in. That's why homeowners across Chicagoland trust Deck Tech. For over 35 years, they've specialized in cleaning, restoring, and protecting decks, keeping them strong, stunning, and ready for every season. Deck Tech now offers 0% financing options for 21 months. Give that special someone the break they deserve with a Deck Tech gift card. Call 800-956-DECK today or visit restoreyourdeck.com. Deck Tech, helping Chicagoland homeowners enjoy the great outdoors for over 35 years. Enjoy your deck all season long with Deck Tech, the clean and seal professionals.
1-800-956-DECK. Call Deck Tech.
AM 560, The Answer.
Dan Proft here. Just reading from that summary letter that Joliet the report on Joliet from Investigative Committee, the Illinois General Assembly, 1977, 78. Under a recent Supreme Court ruling, it's clear that states have the power to regulate the employment of illegal aliens and to fine employers who knowingly hire illegal aliens. Such legislation is already in existence in 10 states. Therefore, the Commission again recommends that the state of Illinois consider and adopt our proposed legislation contained in Appendix B, legislation that would affect what they're describing. While we realize that this bill alone will not solve the problem, it may have a deterrent impact and encourage employers to be more cautious in their hiring practices. Since jobs are the reason illegal Mexican aliens come to Joliet or any place else in Illinois, the Commission believes that the only way to reduce the number of illegal alien Mexicans coming into the United States is to reduce the availability of jobs. Signed, again, by a number of legislators in both parties, but Phil Rock, a former Senate president, Pate Phillip, a former Republican Senate president, former Democrat Senate president, former Republican. Astounding, isn't it, given where we stand today? And by the way, a quick story about Jelly Belly, because violence is just something that happens in big cities. It's just so cavalier with the lives of others, which is also a feature of his party. So Labor Day weekend, he wasn't worried about violence because he was up in Lake Geneva. I heard this. He was at his club, Lake Geneva Country Club, which I've played a few times. Beautiful spot. Very exclusive. But, I know I'm not one, but I know such exclusive people. So that's where he was. It's an interesting thing about Lake Geneva Country Club. As I understand it from some of those exclusives that I know, they have a rule that if you run and obtain public office, you have to take a hiatus from the club. They don't want the politics and they don't want the attention. Okay. Well, J.B. Pritzker ran for office and won. He's the governor of Illinois, don't you know? And so when he was victorious in 2018, the board came to him and said, you know what our rule is, and so you're going to have to step away from the club while you serve as governor. Nope. He knows the rule. It doesn't apply to him. Nope. Not only did he say no, according to a reliable source, he said, if you try to force me to step away from the club, I'm going to sue you and claim that you're doing so because you're anti-Semitic. That's the kind of the piece of human excrement that resides in the governor's mansion here. He would knowingly accuse ostensibly his, friends and colleagues at the club of anti-Semitism, knowingly falsely accuse them if they in any way tried to impede him from getting his way and operating outside the rules that everybody else. And we're talking about people that have as much or more money than J.B. Pritzker, who are not intimidated by J.B. Pritzker. But, of course, they don't want that attention either. They don't want that public fight, and he knows it. That's the kind of appealing to the lowest common denominator in the most dishonest way possible that punctuates that guy's character, which is, by the way, the one thing money can't buy: character. Who would hang out with that guy? Who would vote for him for governor? Probably some of those Chicago residents that have compounds in Lake Geneva and belong to that club probably did, and they probably regret it. Well, opportunities abound. November 2026, we'll see you at the polls. Bill, Northwest Side.
Yeah, real quick, Dan, as you've said many times, you get what you vote for. So the people that should be ashamed of themselves are the people of Chicago that vote these people in election after election, decade after decade, and you see the results, and it's going to continue. That's who should be ashamed of themselves.
Mm-hmm. Well, if shame is still possible. We understand that they have voted in the shameless. I just told you about as good a story as I can tell you as to J.B. Pritzker's character. Right. Does the larger Chicago and Illinois electorate that has propped all of these people up, these shameless people up, do they have any shame left? Anything resembling a conscience? Well, that's what elections are for. Coming up at 6:36, we're going to talk to former Chicago Police Superintendent Jody Weiss about ICE and the National Guard and law enforcement. That's 6:36. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It's 60 degrees in Chicago in the AM 560 The Answer newsroom. I'm Nikki Whaley. President Trump hosted more than 20 high-profile CEOs Thursday for dinner at the White House.
The guest list included Meta founder Mark Zuckerberg, Apple CEO Tim Cook, Microsoft founder Bill Gates, and OpenAI founder Sam Altman. They took turns praising the president as they push for limited regulation on artificial intelligence. Zuckerberg said that all of the tech leaders were making big investments in the U.S. to build data centers and infrastructure. Not in attendance was the world's richest man and former Trump advisor Elon Musk, who had a public falling out with Trump this year. Musk said he had been invited but couldn't make it. I'm Mark Mayfield.
First Lady Melania Trump says that robots are here.
She made the announcement Thursday, leading a meeting for the White House Task Force on Artificial Intelligence Education.
Our future is no longer science fiction.
She noted the double-edged sword of artificial intelligence, highlighting its benefits while acknowledging concerns over its negative effect. Mrs. Trump said it's critical to manage AI's growth responsibly, providing watchful guidance now while the tech is in what she called a primitive stage. The meeting came several months after President Trump signed an executive order seeking to incorporate AI into America's classrooms. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
This news update is quickly delivered to you by Quick Delivery Service. Why are you sitting in Friday traffic? Time is money. When you need your important items delivered quickly, Quick Delivery Service will be there to pick it up and take it to its destination. Go to quickdelivery.com. A check of the roads coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
Your home is a valuable asset, and you want to take care of your home. From roofs, siding, windows, and doors to furnaces, flooring, landscaping, and much more. Listen to your go-to for all things home. It's Home Answers Radio every Sunday morning at 9. Presented by Lang Home Medical Equipment, Valdecast Windows and Doors, and by JeffBuysYourHouse.com. Get answers from industry experts so you can make informed decisions about your home improvement. Right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Hi, I'm Ken Mariotti, owner of Woodland Windows and Doors, a third-generation family-owned business since 1969. We know you're bombarded by choices when shopping for new windows or doors, so we're inviting you to experience the Woodland difference. For decades, we have been transforming living spaces with Marvin Windows, a fifth-generation family business. Marvin replacement windows have been known to increase the warmth of your cold rooms by 10 degrees. Think about that. 10 degrees warmer. When you welcome Woodland into your home, you will get a product expert to transform your living spaces, full-time, dedicated professional installers that you can trust in your home, along with the best products like Marvin. These are the reasons we're proud of our 5-star reviews and family legacy. No gimmicks, no pressure, and upfront pricing are why Woodland Windows and Doors is your trusted window and door expert in Chicagoland. Visit woodlandwindows.com to book your free in-home expert consultation. That's woodlandwindows.com, or stop by our showroom at the corner of Lake and Geary in Roselle.
Welcome back to Ask Hassleus.
I believe in aliens, ghosts, and UFOs, but I don't believe Hassleus Mattress is employee-free.
It's true. Give our mattresses a try with no pushy sales guy.
Do these mattresses come from Area 51?
We're talking big names like Sealy Posturepedic and Beautyrest.
Who's supporting you? The Illuminati?
If you need support, through Monday, get a free adjustable base with any new mattress.
That's what the lizard people told you to say.
Find an employee-free showroom near you at hassleus.com.
Ross Shaw talks about building income in retirement.
You know, you can actually structure it in a way to have that $4,000 a month coming in the door every single month. So you don't have to look at the stock ticker and say, oh, the stock market's up today, stock market's down. You still got that $4,000 a month, and having that opportunity to take the vacations and do all the fun things in retirement that you always dreamed to do.
Unleash Your Wealth, Saturday at 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. on AM 560, The Answer.
Eggland's Best, the only eggs with more fresh and delicious taste, plus superior nutrition. Eggland's Best, better taste, better nutrition, better eggs.
From the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Nikki Whaley. On the Edens inbound from Lake Cook to Montrose, 15 minutes. Outbound, about 13 minutes. On the Kennedy inbound from Montrose to the Vernon Interchange, about 14 minutes. Outbound, 10 minutes. On the Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 16 minutes. Outbound is about 16 minutes. And we've got that stalled semi still blocking a right lane, not quite as bad. On the Stevenson inbound from the Tri-State to Lakeshore Drive, 20 minutes. Outbound is about 16 minutes. This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. Need new blinds? At Blindster.com, they offer guaranteed low prices, guaranteed satisfaction, free samples, and free shipping. At Blindster, they take the fear out of ordering custom blind shades and shutters so you can do it yourself and save big. Blindster.com. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be windy and cool with a mix of clouds and sun, reaching a high of 65. Tonight stays breezy early, then mainly clear and cool with a low of 48. Tomorrow expect a blend of sun and clouds, hitting a high of 67. Sunday will be partly sunny with a high of 69. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
Top of the morning, Jan Proft here. So, more Mexican Independence Day related activities have been postponed. El Grito Chicago organizers announcing they have postponed their festival in Grand Park scheduled for September 13th and 14th. After careful consideration and at the recommendations of the state of Illinois and city of Chicago officials, organizers have decided to postpone El Grito Chicago, due to possible ICE activity and a potential National Guard deployment. Given the festival's location in downtown Chicago, organizers recognize that the festival is a more visible target and have determined that keeping the community safe must be the top priority. Oh, really? On the advice of the city and the state. What was the advice? Exactly. How did it go? You have a lot of people in this country illegally who are going to attend your festival, and some of them pose public safety threats. Some of them ICE probably has warrants for, and you may not want to do that festival because it'll make it easier for ICE to apprehend them and move them for deportation, because they're in this country illegally and have committed crimes or pose some sort of public safety threat, which is the priority. Is that what the advice and counsel was? Why are all these things being canceled? Because these are law-abiding people? Why would law-abiding people in this country legally have anything to fear from ICE? Isn't that an obvious question? If you have not broken a law, why would you have anything to fear from law enforcement? Is that too obvious? So you're conceding the point, and you're essentially making a general effort to aid and abet the concealment of people who have broken the law on the advice of the state and the city. Isn't that nice? BLM Brandon, it's shameful that the president's reckless militarized immigration enforcement tactics have forced organizers of El Grito to postpone the celebration this year. He's very saddened about it. Can you respect the Mexican community and also respect the rule of law? I think you can. I think many in the Mexican community do, actually, ironically. But, of course, they're not the ones that anybody in the D.C. or Chicago press corps are interested in hearing from, much less the Chicago political power structure. Yeah, it's all about respect, is it? The mayor of North Chicago, Leon Rockingham Jr., said of Customs and Border Patrol and potentially National Guard that would be stationed at Great Lakes, that doesn't make Lake County feel safe knowing that they're there. Why wouldn't they at some point be deployed to Lake County? We have Round Lake, we have Mundelein, we have other areas that have heavy Latino population, so I think all of Lake County should be concerned. Why would all of Lake County be concerned? I assume most of Lake County has done nothing wrong. So what do they have to be concerned about? The way they talk about this, you sort of get inured to it, and you forget how asinine it all is. I'm not concerned. You're not concerned. People who've done nothing wrong are not concerned. People who have done something wrong have reason to be concerned. And isn't that sort of the resting posture of the concept of the rule of law? It's astounding to listen to them talk about the coverage, too, the incendiary coverage, pun intended, flashbang grenades and early morning raids, how Trump is planning to target Chicago. It's a federal incursion. No, it's a federal law enforcement action. But this is the way it's characterized. And it goes largely unchallenged, except, by me and a few others, including those in law enforcement. I cannot play this clip enough from the presser earlier this week. The characterization Pritzker offered of federal law enforcement and, by extension, National Guardsmen who would back their play were they to be deployed.
Second, unidentifiable agents in unmarked vehicles with masks are planning to raid Latino communities and say they're targeting violent criminals. As we saw in Los Angeles, a very, very small percentage of the individuals they will target will be violent criminals. Instead, you're likely to see videos of them hauling away mothers and fathers, traveling to work or picking up their kids from school. Sometimes they will detain, handcuff, and haul away children. They are law-abiding individuals who pay taxes and contribute to the communities who feel safe going to work and attending mandatory immigration check-ins. In other words, they're following the law. We have reason to believe that Stephen Miller chose the month of September to come to Chicago because of celebrations around Mexican Independence Day that happen here every year. It breaks my heart to report that we have been told ICE will try and disrupt community picnics and peaceful parades. Let's be clear, the terror and cruelty is the point, not the safety of anyone living here.
So, follow-up question, Governor Pritzker, you're running for president. You want to be president. If you were elected president, would you move to designate ICE as a terrorist organization? You just said the terror is the point. They're going to disrupt parades. They're going to be masked men in unmarked cars taking grandmothers away and children, just like they did in L.A., except that's not what they did in L.A. They executed raids across multiple locations in downtown L.A., leading to the arrest of 44 people. 44 people out of the millions of people who live in and around L.A.? Does that sound indiscriminate to you? Actually, it sounds very surgical to me. Remarkable that he gets away with those sorts of characterizations with very limited pushback. Jody Weiss is a former superintendent of the Chicago Police Department. He joins us now. Jody, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan. You left me in shock hearing those comments. It's remarkable,
isn't it? And I mean, it just dissipates into the ether like this is, just responsible commentary, or this is, him protecting his people, whatever that means. I guess his people are people who break the law. But I mean, you speak to it because you've got background both on the federal side as well as the state side, and how well the federal and state law enforcement work together when they're not impeded by politicians.
Yeah, Dan, think about it. For decades, the Chicago Police Department has worked with federal agencies going after gangs, drugs, different types of investigation. And it's been very, very, very profitable. When I was in the FBI in Chicago, we had Chicago police officers who were sitting on the violent crime FBI squad. You've been there for 15 years. They were training new agents. So the relationship, if you get the politicians out of it, are outstanding. But when I listen to this windbag run his mouth like that, it's like, you think he's talking about Al-Qaeda or some terrorist group, and these guys are just going out trying to get the worst of the worst out of our country. And it's so dangerous to make comments like that. Even out here in Arizona, I hear these comments like, we're going to resist, we're going to fight back. But what is he talking about, an insurrection? Because that's what it sounds like. But to listen to this guy, and as you said, other than you, no pushback, it's stunning to listen to a politician speak like this. And the other thing, Dan, I want to bring up, look at D.C. D.C. has had such great success. You have the mayor there begrudgingly saying, you know what, this is working pretty well. So when the police department is down 2,000 officers, why in the world would you not work with the president? Work to bring in additional resources. Give the officers a chance to be proactive, to be preventative, rather than running from crime to crime to crime. Because down that many officers, I was blessed. I was never down that many. But you get to a point, even a large department like Chicago, you just don't have enough officers. And I really feel sorry for the police officers right now working under these conditions. It's horrible.
Well, and also too, I mean, just this talking point that to work keeping the community safe by hiding the criminal element within the community. I mean,
unbelievable. Unbelievable.
And you just had this incident in Florida, and there's so many more like this. So with the illegal immigrant from India illegally gets a CDL, doesn't know how to operate it responsibly, probably doesn't, well, per the testing, doesn't even understand many traffic signs, makes this U-turn on the turnpike, a minivan crashes into him. He kills 3 people. He's charged with 3 counts of vehicular manslaughter. And the 3 people he killed were Haitian immigrants. I mean, so how are you keeping the quote unquote immigrant community safer when you have people that have a reckless disregard for other people's lives or are actual predators, like was arrested? Those were arrested, gangbangers, TDA gangbangers and others. Child predators arrested with those ICE actions in LA back in June. And that's all glossed over under basically let's everybody hide so we can keep our community safe for criminals. It's remarkable.
Yeah. And it's like, are you listening to your constituents? I was been shocked at the number of residents in Chicago that are calling for help, that are asking for the president to send in the National Guard, that are asking for federal resources. And Dan,
because you know why? Because they. Sorry to interrupt. You know why they are? Because they don't summer in Lake Geneva or Wellington, Florida. They live in neighborhoods that, as you well know, have been beset by endemic violent crime for generations.
Yeah, the police have done a great job tamping down crime. The numbers are phenomenal, but you still are leading the nation in homicide. So you can't sit back and say, we've done a great job, and have the politicians scream about how safe Chicago is. You know, I was looking at the shootings over the weekend, or Labor Day weekend. You know, in one place, I think 7 people were shot at 11 o'clock at night. Another place, machine gun fire erupts and 5 people are shot. And so you can't sit back and say we couldn't use help. And the thing that really shocks me is this is a no-lose situation for Pritzker and Johnson. They should welcome Trump in. If it doesn't work, they can say, hey, we tried to work with this. We did everything we could. But to just say no as the people are screaming for help from a political standpoint, I think that's absolutely stunning. And it could be so easy. You know, bring in some additional AUSAs, bring in some additional agents, even the simple cases like a felon arrested with a handgun. That could go federal. You've got the Hobbs Act, which is one of my favorites. We used it in Philadelphia. If somebody knocks off a liquor store or a convenience store, you know, that does interfere with interstate commerce, and from robbery is an act of violence. So you can take these cases federal. And the nice thing with going federal, the criminals will go away for a long time to a place far, far away. But nobody wants to sit down and just talk about this. ICE would work with the police department. They'd work with the community. And you said it perfect early on. The immigrant community would welcome this, because so many of the people ICE are going after, who are the victims? It's their fellow immigrants that are there. So they're not targeting people in some of the wealthier areas. They're targeting people in the communities where they live. So, of course, the immigrants in the city of Chicago legally would love to have this help and get these criminals out of the city, out of the country.
And with, I mean, so ICE is one thing, the National Guard and federalizing it for the enforcement of federal law in American cities is another. What's your perspective on that, even if it's necessarily going to be for a temporary period of time, but perhaps for a surge in resources for the purposes of immigration enforcement, as may be happening here or in New Orleans or in Baltimore, but sort of your general reaction to this approach that the president may be on the cusp of taking?
You know, Dan, I think what it can do, it can give some relief and allow the officers in the police department to kind of regain a foothold. The National Guard can be great deterrents. You can have them go in, assign a force. They can be a force multiplier, and you can put them in the high crime areas like some of the parks, some of the open air drug markets, and that'll stop the crime right there. They can really help out with logistics if the department wants to run checkpoints and try to find some of the gangbangers going from one place to the other, or perhaps moving for a retaliation strike. They can help enforce that. From an intelligence perspective, they have great analysts in the military, so they can help the police department, you know, determine where the officers need to be and when they need to be there. So it can be a great force multiplier. And I think you just have to look at D.C. about how effective that has been. From the federal side of the house, as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of way to bring in quick impact cases. The problem I always have with the feds, and I was with them for a long time, their cases are strong, but they take forever. A RICO case will take years. But there's other things that you can do, as I mentioned earlier, that can have that quick impact. And they are federal prosecutions, which will send these young men away for a long period of time. A felon can get 10 years, a felon arrested with a gun, 10, 12 years. Some have mandatory minimums that they have to hit. So there's a lot of things that could do. What would that do? That would let the police almost like reset. And then they can work more on the broken windows theory. You can't do broken windows theory policing, in my opinion, when the city is out of control. You've got to tamp that down, and then you can start going at the low-level crimes, and then you can start being more proactive. But I would welcome them if I was Larry Snelling right now, only because it would give me a chance to almost take a step back, assess, figure how we can work with the federal agencies, how we can best position the National Guard to give us some relief, and then we can refocus on those areas that need the strongest policing. So I think it's an opportunity that's being lost, and I really feel sorry for the city of Chicago, because every time I'm watching the news, I see residents and citizens coming forward saying, we need help. And, I look at Pritzker walking around the lake at 6 o'clock in the morning. You just start laughing. It's like, what are you doing at 6 o'clock in the morning down in the lake? Of course there's no crime. Do that at Englewood or Austin or Garfield Park at 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, I don't think he's going to feel so comfortable doing that. So it's just performative theater with him and Brandon Johnson. But, I was never a big fan of Lori Lightfoot, and I thought they'll never get a worse mayor than Lori Lightfoot, but they have. Yeah. And that is so sad. The citizens and the residents of Chicago deserve so much better.
Jody Weiss, former superintendent of the Chicago Police Department. Jody, thanks for joining us. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, Dan, keep the fight going. Your voice is important. There is a lot of people that want to hear you, so hang in there.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Jody, thanks so much for joining us. And he did on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
This is an important notice to all U.S. taxpayers. The IRS is giving away billions of dollars in tax savings through a federal program called the Fresh Start Initiative to aid delinquent taxpayers. This initiative was established for anyone facing financial hardship and unable to pay their back taxes. Qualifying and enrolling in this program will stop all collections, settle your delinquent tax problem, and even reduce what you owe by thousands of dollars. Call the hotline at People's Tax Relief to see if you qualify and get this free information by dialing 800-458-9469. If you have unfiled tax returns or cannot afford to pay your personal or business back taxes, you can now get the help you need. One simple phone call can resolve your tax problem and save you thousands of dollars. To see if you qualify and to get this important free information, call 800-458-9469. 800-458-9469. 800-458-9469.
Are you turning 65 and thinking about Medicare? Or are you over 65 and haven't enrolled yet because you still have coverage at work? Either way, Medicare done correctly will be the best health insurance you will ever have. Imagine having an annual deductible of only $257. There are only two good things about aging, wisdom and Medicare. But to navigate the Medicare maze properly, you need a mentor. Best part? My guidance costs you nothing. Call me. I can help.
If you're tired of calling a bureaucrat at an 800 number to help you navigate Medicare, then you need a local expert on your side. Your own health insurance mentor. C. Stephen Tucker from healthinsurancementors.com is someone I know and trust. He's a 30-year licensed broker who's been educating our listeners for more than a decade. Steve, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
Thanks, Dan. They can visit healthinsurancementors.com or call me directly at 630-674-1551. That's 630-674-1551.
At Air Right Heating and Cooling, we know there's never a good time to be without AC in Chicagoland. If you can't remember the last time your AC was inspected, don't wait for it to fail during a heat wave. Get peace of mind by having Air Right take a look. Plus, AM 560 listeners get $56 off any service. Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling today at air-right.com. That's AIR-RITE.com. Air Right Heating and Cooling. Doing it right since 1959.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, good to speak with Jody Weiss again. It's been a while. Coming up at 7:07. It's also been a while since we have spoken with Dr. Richard Bartlett, a Texas doctor who served on former Governor Rick Perry's healthcare task force. We'll talk about both RFK Jr.'s testimony before Senate Finance Committee yesterday, as well as the announcement from Florida Surgeon General Joe Ladapo on the vaccine mandates in the state of Florida. That is all at 7:07. It is now 7 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
National Guard troops will keep patrolling D.C. through November. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
We continue to work to ensure that everyone that walks through these city streets is safe.
That's D.C. Guard Commander General Leland Blanchard extending a Trump crackdown the president says has brought crime down to virtually nothing. But Washington's Attorney General has filed suit trying to end the Guard deployment.
We have Democratic leaders here kind of flip-flopping on their take on having this federalization here, but at the same time receiving a lot of praise for falling crime rates. Let's see what this is what D.C.'s AG Brian Schwab said yesterday about this lawsuit. He wrote, "No American city should have the U.S. military, particularly out-of-state military, who are not accountable to the residents and untrained in local law enforcement policing its streets." It's D.C. today, but could be any other city tomorrow.
That's Fox's Alexandria Hoff at the White House, where later today, the president, in an executive order, will rebrand the Department of Defense the War Department, what it used to be called, though a permanent name change would need congressional approval. Democrats keep calling for HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to be fired over vaccine policy changes and the firings of the CDC director and others, following a contentious Senate hearing when Kennedy sparred over and over with Democrats, telling Maggie assassin.
You're just making things up to scare people, and it's a lie.
Senator Mark Warner said,
Secretary of Health and Human Services doesn't know how many Americans died from COVID. Doesn't know if the vaccine helped prevent any deaths. And you are sitting as Secretary of Health and Human Services? How can you be that ignorant?
Some Republicans were also critical of Kennedy over vaccines, but President Trump is standing by him.
If you look at what's going on in the world with health and look at this country also with regard to health, I like the fact that he's different.
Will the president trust the monthly jobs report coming out later this hour? It's the first one since the much weaker than expected July update that included massive revisions down in hiring for May and July, prompting the president to fire the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It's 60 degrees in Chicago in the AM 560 The Answer newsroom. I'm Nikki Whaley. Governor Pritzker is vowing to take legal action against President Trump if he sends the National Guard to Chicago. The governor says his office will immediately go to court to get a temporary restraining order if military troops are sent to the city. Pritzker says he expects federal immigration agents to assemble in the Chicago area today and begin actions tomorrow. He called on anyone planning to protest to do it peacefully. Northwestern University President Michael Schill is stepping down. He announced he's resigning after 3 years on the job, saying the school is on a stronger footing. During his tenure, Schill faced so-called attacks from Republican officials, layoffs caused by funding cuts from the Trump administration, and student protests. The Board of Trustees will name an interim president soon. Schill will work with the interim president in order to assure a smooth transition. A former Arlington Heights school nurse accused of misusing prescription drugs intended for students is going to jail. Tori Eats will serve at least 90 days in jail and 30 months of probation after pleading guilty yesterday to charges of official misconduct, forgery, and endangering the life of a child. The former Westgate Elementary School nurse was accused of misappropriating medication prescribed to students. Authorities claim that she altered official school documents to conceal her misconduct. News as a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Overpaying for dental implants is over. If you have a Blue Cross Blue Shield PPO or FEP, you could save 90% off on average to get your smile back. Learn more and check if you qualify at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. A check of the roads coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
If you listen to the mainstream media and the Democrats, you'd think it was a sin to be black and conservative. Well, John Anthony blows up that perception every week on Black and Right. Join John tomorrow afternoon at 4 when he pushes back against the left and its regressive, progressive agenda that tries to dictate how people should think or feel about politics. Listen to Black and Right tomorrow afternoon at 4 right here on AM 560. The Answer.
Millions are choosing NordVPN to stay safer online. Get NordVPN today with 77% off and up to 3 months extra. NordVPN will encrypt your online traffic and help you avoid phishing, scams, and malware. Get the special NordVPN deal today at NordVPN.com. This offer includes a 77% discount on a 2-year plan and up to 3 extra months. Savings and additional terms apply and can be found on NordVPN.com. The offer is valid until October 15th.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at ethos.com/term. That's ethos.com/term.
A large retail store just canceled a huge order, leaving MyPillow with a ton of extra MyPillows. But you know what? That's their loss and your gain. MyPillow is offering the Classic Collection for wholesale prices. Only $19.98 for a standard MyPillow. But it gets even better. For a limited time, they're going to offer the entire Classic Collection at wholesale prices. Get queen-size MyPillows for just $24.98. Upgrade to king-size for only $29.98. Get the body pillows for $39.98. And the multi-use MyPillows for only $12.98. So go to MyPillow.com and use promo code LIBERTY or call 800-489-0201 to take advantage of wholesale prices financing and receive $100 in free digital gifts when your order is $75 or more. That's right. Get the standard MyPillow for only $19.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY. That number again is 800-489-0201. Promo code LIBERTY.
When the power goes out, life stops. Heat, AC, fridge, phones, all gone. But with a Generac home standby generator from True Power Generator Service, your home powers back on automatically, so you're never left in the dark. Book your consultation today at TruePowerGenerator.com. That's TruePowerGenerator.com. And right now, AM 560 listeners get a free 10-year extended warranty with their Generac. True Power Generator Service and Generac. It's not just a generator, it's a power move.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank, a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hi, I'm Bob Chivato, owner of Go Exceed and a customer of Signature Bank. By leveraging AI and machine learning, we provide data management solutions for corporations to save time and money managing their cellular devices. While we rely on machines to help us run our business, we believe personal relationships are essential. This is why we chose Signature Bank. Having a banking partner who understands our background, our business, and our priorities is fundamental to our success. Any bank can provide basic services, but having a bank that you can trust, one that looks out for you and treats your business like its own, that's irreplaceable.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Want to learn how Signature Bank can help turn your business vision into reality? Call Signature Bank at 773-467-5600 or visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
From the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Nikki Whaley. On the Edens inbound from Lake Cook to Montrose, 15 minutes. Outbound, about 13 minutes. On the Kennedy inbound from Montrose to the Vernon Interchange, about 14 minutes. Outbound, 10 minutes. On the Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 16 minutes. Outbound is about 16 minutes. And we've got that stalled semi still blocking a right lane, not quite as bad. On the Stevenson inbound from the Tri-State to Lakeshore Drive, 20 minutes. Outbound is about 16 minutes. This report is sponsored by Blindster.com. Need new blinds? At Blindster.com, they offer guaranteed low prices, guaranteed satisfaction, free samples, and free shipping. At Blindster, they take the fear out of ordering custom blinds, shades, and shutters so you can do it yourself and save big. Blindster.com. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be windy and cool with a mix of clouds and sun, reaching a high of 65. Tonight stays breezy early, then mainly clear and cool with a low of 48. Tomorrow expect a blend of sun and clouds, hitting a high of 67. Sunday will be partly sunny with a high of 69. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, and RFK Jr. was there before the Senate Finance Committee yesterday. Some spirited exchanges between RFK Jr. and Senators Republican and Democrat, but mostly the new Marxists, who were particularly antagonistic. They have to rewrite the history on COVID to cast themselves as the heroes as opposed to the villains, or certainly try to avoid any culpability for the science-free policies they backed. And so you had these sorts of exchanges like this between the normally vanilla Colorado Senator Michael Bennet and RFK Jr. on vaccine schedules going forward.
Schools of Colorado be prepared for more measles outbreaks as a result of that, Mr. Secretary?
Senator,
how about more mumps outbreaks.
I do not anticipate a change in the MMR vaccine. ACIP is an independent panel. So,
well, it's a panel you just put those folks on. Far from what you said, they're people with ideas that are completely outside the mainstream.
You mean out of the pharmaceutical paradigm?
Let me just say, Mr. Secretary, all these vaccines that we're talking about today are free and accessible to parents today in America who have the freedom to be able to make that choice for their children. Will that be true after your handpicked panel makes their judgments about these vaccines?
I think that parents should be free
I know you said that before. I do too.
To make their own choices.
So will they be just as free after these?
I assume they will be.
And the topic or the conversation continued in the direction of transparency.
Give the American people 6 months or 6 weeks in advance the record that they're going to rely on to make these decisions. Will you make it transparent for the American people?
All the evidence is transparent.
Will you make it in advance transparent for the American people so they can comment on it?
All the evidence is transparent for the first time in history, and you were never there complaining when the pharmaceutical companies were picking those people and then running their products through with no safety testing.
You can characterize it any way you want. I quoted them today. What I said was accurate. What you said were lies. You described moving the Titanic.
Are you saying that the mRNA vaccine has never been associated with myocarditis or pericarditis in teenagers?
I am simply.
Is that what you're trying to tell us?
I am simply trying to say that the people that you have put on that panel, after firing the entire.
You're evading the question.
No, I'm asking the questions here,
You're
Mr.
evading
Kennedy.
that question.
I'm asking the questions, Mr.
I asked
Kennedy.
you a question.
I'm asking the questions for Mr. Kennedy on behalf of parents and schools and teachers all over the United States of America who deserve so much better than your leadership. That's what this conversation is about, Mr. Chairman.
Senator, they deserve the truth, and that's what we're going to give them for the first time in the history of that agency.
Well, that was fun. A lot of focus by the politicians on the members of this immunization advisory panel because they want those that are part of the scientific establishment. And I think RFK Jr. is looking for, clearly, was looking for people that have more skepticism. I even said something that actually I give him credit for saying. That some of these people, I think this was an exchange with Bill Cassidy from Louisiana, Republican. Some of them may have biases against the pharmaceutical industry, but they'll follow the science. Yeah, well, guess what? Everybody has a bias. They're these objective oracles that otherwise sit on these government boards. Yeah, that doesn't exist. Of course, people have perspectives on this. People have perspectives on the pharmaceutical companies as an industry, specific actors within big pharma, specific studies about this drug or that vaccine. Yeah, but as long as you're open-minded and you're going where the evidence leads and you're asking reasonable questions and generating reasonable explanations that can be shared with the American people, then you're doing your job as far as I'm concerned. And that seemed to be the approach that Kennedy was taking. He was very combative with the senators, which I like. There's too much deference paid to these mediocre intellects Earl Shibed into looking somewhat consequential, as Dennis Miller once described them. And something else, too, that was attendant to his testimony, basically something that he said in an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal last week. The dysfunction of the CDC produced irrational policy during COVID. Cloth masks on toddlers, arbitrary 6-foot distancing, boosters for healthy children, prolonged school closings, economy-crushing lockdowns, and the suppression of low-cost therapeutics in favor of experimental and ineffective drugs. The toll was devastating. America is home to 4.2% of the world's population, but suffered 19% of COVID deaths. Even though he was complimentary of Operation Warp Speed and the initial vaccine as having mapped the virus at that time prior to its mutations. But where they got into disagreement, because the COVIDians have to maintain their posture, is the recommendation of boosters going forward in perpetuity. And as one of the things an alert listener brought to my attention, that RFK said that if you follow all of the recommended vaccines for a child, they would have 67 total in childhood. And gosh knows how many COVID booster shots, if you're going to, I don't even know where we are in the number, since I never took one. But if you're going to be compelled to recommend those as just a matter of course, rather than as per his exchange with Senator Warren from Massachusetts we played earlier, there's not clinical data to support him. I'm not going to blindly recommend something because you want me to recommend it, because, you're sort of locked into this COVIDian mentality, which is just shut up and go get your booster. And by the way, one other thing before we bring on our guest, just on what they started with, I don't want to lose that. The vaccine schedule for kids in school. This is going to get heightened scrutiny, not just because of the exchange yesterday with RFK, but because of what a friend of the show and Florida Surgeon General, Dr. Joseph Ladapo, announced about what Florida is doing.
But what I'm most excited about is an announcement that we're making now, which is that the Florida Department of Health, in partnership with the governor, is going to be working to end all vaccine mandates in Florida law. All of them. All of them. All of them.
And this, of course, sent the left into a tizzy. I saw a lot of posts on social media about this is going to lead to a mass exodus of Floridians. I doubt it, speaking as a Floridian. Dr. Richard Bartlett practiced medicine in Texas, and he also served on former Texas Governor Rick Perry's healthcare task force. Dr. Bartlett, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
It's good to be with you. I was impressed with RFK's stance yesterday. He spoke facts. He's unbiased. He's not bought by any industry. He hasn't received one penny. When you consider his exchange with Elizabeth Warren, who received over $818,000 from Big Pharma, you can see how she started yelling like her hair was on fire.
Yeah.
They just had trouble speaking civilly and level-headed. They were yelling, literally screeching. It was really sensational.
Well, I mean, they want to cast him as this anti-vax ideologue that is doing dangerous things at the behest of that dangerous man in the Oval Office. But, from what I've seen, as someone who's, was skeptical and disagreed with RFK Jr. about some things that he had said and done in the past on the issue of vaccines, as well as on other related, or not other unrelated political issues. But what I saw yesterday and what I've seen from his time at HHS is, he's a pretty transparent guy. He's pretty reasonable. He explains himself and the rationale for a position he's taken or an action that he took. And he was pretty clear that, look, I'm going where the evidence leads. I'm relying on experts like my colleagues, Dr. Bhattacharya and Dr. Makary and Dr. Kuldorf, who was sidelined by you guys back during COVID because he didn't comply with the orthodoxy on approaches to COVID. And he spoke a lot about clinical trials. I'm not going to blindly recommend something. I'm going to demand clinical trials. I'm going to demand essentially the scientific method be followed and go in the direction that the evidence leads.
Right. And You know, I'm an emergency room doctor myself, and he's had much overlap with me. We were texting yesterday, and so I actually teach advanced trauma life support to emergency room doctors, a course that every ER doctor has to take. I teach that, and every time I teach that course, I have to disclose whether I've received a penny from that would be a financial conflict of interest from anything that would affect it. And so it doesn't affect financial conflict of interest matters. And when you have Bernie Sanders, who's received over $1.4 million from pharmaceutical companies, from vaccine manufacturers, that's going to affect he hasn't even disclosed that, much less acknowledge that it can affect his judgment and his attack on RFK. Elizabeth Warren received $818,000, and RFK received zero. That matters.
But let's get to the science of it here too. Starting with the school vaccinations. We're going to see what Senator Bennett. Are we going to see more measles, more mumps because you're opposed to making recommendations that these vaccines be mandatory? And of course, you heard from the Florida Surgeon General and the direction that Florida is going. What's your reaction to making all vaccines optional?
I was in the front lines of the measles outbreak here in West Texas. Me and another doctor treated over 108 in one day of measles victims. And so we know what this is about. And we found that there were generic, inexpensive, readily available, safe medicines that have been out with a long-term safety record of over 30 years that were effective in decreasing the symptoms and helping people recover quicker. And these are the types of things that were suppressed by the CDC. These senators that are on the Senate Finance Committee were sitting there during the COVID disaster, and they didn't hold anybody accountable when we had school closures, which eventually caused our milestones of speech development and education to be downgraded, because kids need to see lips when they're reading. They need to have the social interaction, and their skills of reading and speech actually worsened during the outbreak because of wearing masks, which had no science behind it, which RFK pointed out at the beginning of the hearing. And so we see that the science was not followed, and every one of these senators were in position of power during the whole COVID outbreak, and they never said anything about the lies that came out of the CDC, out of ACIP, literally lies. You had the CDC director lie to the American people while these people were in power, saying that if you get a COVID shot, you will not get COVID. That was an out-and-out lie. The science proves that they lie.
Yeah, can't get it, can't give it. One of those aphorisms we all remember. But I mean, just on the going back to the vax schedule with that measles outbreak, RFK writing in the Journal about it mentioned that as, hey, look, I'm not anti-vax. When we had that outbreak, we went down there with measles with measles vaccines, and we got people vaccinated, and that was part of a multi-tiered approach that we took to address that outbreak in Texas. So number one, is that accurate? And number two, just back to the underlying question about mandating things like the measles vaccine or leaving it up to the parents.
So nobody knows better what's good for their kids than a good parent, an educated parent. And RFK has made promises, and he's kept his promises. And one is that he'll leave all vaccines available for everyone. He's not going to withhold any of the vaccines from anyone that wants them. And he has made that promise, and he's kept that promise. And he has said that that's how it will be going in the future. The MMR vaccine will be available for everyone. And yes, he did rush MMR vaccines, and they did a huge MMR measles vaccine campaign here in West Texas. And so we saw that was evidence of exactly what he said he would do. He has not withheld the vaccines. He said he's going to follow the science, and the science shows that the CDC and these senators have failed the American people. And I'm going to say that money matters. When you receive $1.4 million from vaccine manufacturers like Bernie Sanders did, it's going to color your arguments. and accusations.
Yeah, and we've certainly had some people recant some of what they were party to during COVID, including the former CDC director, Redfield. But I want to get your reaction to something Susan Monterez said. She's the CDC director who had about as long as executive career as the Pope who was poisoned. She was there for less than a month. But she said in an op-ed, and she's referring to RFK Jr., among others, those seeking to undermine vaccines use a familiar playbook, discredit research, weaken advisory committees, and use manipulated outcomes to unravel protections that generations of families have relied on to keep deadly diseases at bay. Once trusted experts are removed and advisory boards are stacked, the results are predetermined. This isn't reform. It is sabotage. That's what she intimates is going on at CDC and HHS generally. What's your response to that?
Okay, I spoke with her. She called me during the measles outbreak to see what was happening on the front line. She only called at the behest of RFK. RFK wanted her to be informed. She is not a medical doctor, not a nurse, not a chiropractor, not an occupational therapist, physical therapist. She has never seen a patient and is not licensed to treat a patient. I don't know if anyone knows that. She calls herself a doctor, but she has a PhD. She was the director of the CDC in charge of infectious diseases prevention, and she has no patient experience, never will. And so that matters. And so her arguments are vague, and looking at what RFK is doing, she was in position of power in the CDC, within the CDC for a decade. And what did she do during measles or during the COVID outbreak? Nothing. We never heard anything from her. Instead, she was going around to BARDA and DARPA and other organizations promoting AI in healthcare. She didn't speak at all about COVID or about the measles outbreak, even during the measles outbreak. So she was an epic fail and an obstacle to making America healthy again. And good riddance.
Dr. Richard Bartlett, practicing medicine in Texas. He served on former Texas Governor Rick Perry's healthcare task force as well. Dr. Bartlett, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it. And you join us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
When the power goes out, life stops. Heat, AC, fridge, phones, all gone. But with a Generac home standby generator from True Power Generator Service, your home powers back on automatically, so you're never left in the dark. Book your consultation today at TruePowerGenerator.com. That's TruePowerGenerator.com. And right now, AM 560 listeners get a free 10-year extended warranty with their Generac. True Power Generator Service and Generac. It's not just a generator, it's a power move.
Hey, heard you're getting ready to move.
We just listed our house on the market.
Just make sure you have the right attorney.
Doesn't the real estate agent take care of all that?
They stay involved, but you want to make sure you have a great lawyer that's negotiating the terms, helping resolve inspection items, clearing up title issues, preparing the deed and other documents, and attending the closing.
The attorneys at Nauman & Associates in Elk Grove Village have decades of experience handling real estate transactions every day all over Chicagoland. NALawGroup.com.
This is an urgent announcement for anyone that's $10,000 or more in debt. Before you make another minimum payment, you need to know there are special programs that can completely free you of your debt. Total Financial Freedom can help you become debt-free in months instead of years. Resolve your credit card debt, signature loans, department store cards, internet loans, and timeshares. Call now at 800-533-6605 for a free consultation. For 17 years, Total Financial Freedom has helped thousands get out of debt. You can feel confident when calling because Total Financial Freedom is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau and a Christian-owned company. Don't get stuck in the endless cycle of payments. You have the right to get your debt resolved and substantially reduce your monthly payments. Call Christian-owned Total Financial Freedom now at 800-533-6605. That's 800-533-6605. 800-533-6605.
Arvid, he fell asleep in the Perry sleeper again.
Come on, Ben. Wake up.
Go away. I'm hibernating.
You can't hibernate.
I can in the Perry Sleeper. It has 5 extra inches of sleep space.
And no painful bar in the middle of my back.
I'm going back to sleep. I set an alarm.
For what time?
April.
The Perry Sleeper, American-made with your choice of fabric or leather and no metal bar digging into your back. Starting at $44.99 at Penny Mustard.
7 Chicagoland showrooms.
PennyMustard.com.
Don't miss cutting-edge coverage of daily news from an America First perspective on the Alex Marlow Podcast on the Salem Podcast Network.
Everything I'm seeing from the public is that public does not like the idea of just pure welfare and charity being done for people who are able to work and are not willing to work. So able-bodied people have got to get back to work.
Subscribe today on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, or at SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up at 7:37, we'll talk about Trump's drug war, and it's looking more like an actual war with the targeting of Venezuelan drug runners. We'll hear from Marco Rubio on that, but we're going to talk to Daniel DePetris, fellow at Defense Priorities, syndicated foreign affairs columnist for the Chicago Tribune. We'll talk about the cartels. We'll talk a little bit Eastern Europe, and we'll talk a little bit Middle East. That's all at 7:37. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It's 60 degrees in Chicago in the AM 560 The Answer newsroom. I'm Nikki Whaley. The Trump administration is suing Boston over its immigration policies.
On Thursday, the Department of Justice filed suit against the city's Democratic Mayor, Michelle Wu. The DOJ alleges Boston's policies that limit cooperation between police and federal immigration authorities violate the law. In response, Wu accused the administration of pursuing an authoritarian agenda, saying, "We will not yield." I'm Mark Mayfield.
Israel is seizing control of more of Gaza City ahead of the planned offensive to take over entirely. Blake Shifton has more from the region.
The Israeli military said on Thursday it is in control of 40% of Gaza City, following intensifying operations on the city's outskirts and ahead of the main push to seize the entire area. The military has said that Gaza City's population of 1 million people will need to evacuate, but estimates of how many people have left in recent weeks range from 20 to 80,000, with many in the city saying no place in Gaza is safe or that they are unable to leave due to health or financial limitations. UNICEF said Thursday that Israeli operations are leading to the collapse of essential services in Gaza City, and the unthinkable has already begun. Blake Sifton, Tel Aviv.
News is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Overpaying for dental implants is over. If you have a Blue Cross Blue Shield PPO or FEP, you could save 90% off on average to get your smile back. Learn more and check if you qualify at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. I check of the roads coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
Your home is a valuable asset, and you want to take care of your home. From roofs, siding, windows, and doors to furnaces, flooring, landscaping, and much more. Listen to your go-to for all things home. It's Home Answers Radio every Sunday morning at 9. Presented by Lang Home Medical Equipment, Valdecast Windows and Doors, and by JeffBuysYourHouse.com. Get answers from industry experts so you can make informed decisions about your home improvement. Right here on AM 560, The Answer.
My friend Paula just remodeled her kitchen. I feel bad. It's so bland.
Yeah. Everyone's using the same templated designs these days or just refacing cabinets.
Let's check out Forever Remodeling. They do full and custom kitchen remodels from the ground up, just for us.
It'd be nice to have a kitchen that's truly ours.
Exactly.
Don't get the same kitchen design as everyone else. Visit Forever Remodeling today at foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4, everremodeling.com. And tell them AM 560 sent you.
This is Dennis Prager for AmFed Coin and Bullion. There's something about the feel of a gold coin in your hand and the way the light reflects off its intricate details that has always captivated me. Nick Grovich, AmFed's owner, turned that same passion into his livelihood. Nick began collecting coins as a teen, and that interest grew into a nationally respected business offering only the finest quality coins at the most competitive prices. But the truth is that although Nick is a rare coin dealer, he doesn't believe in rare coins. Rare coins do not make sound investments, but they do make dealers a lot of money. See, that's part of what I respect about him. AmFed specializes in buying non-performing numismatic coins and turning them into gold or silver investments that provide liquidity and perform competitively against the market. Whether you're buying or selling, call 800-221-7694. That's 800-221-7694. AmericanFederal.com.
At Air Right Heating and Cooling, we know there's never a good time to be without AC in Chicagoland. If you can't remember the last time your AC was inspected, don't wait for it to fail during a heat wave. Get peace of mind by having Air Right take a look. Plus, AM 560 listeners get $56 off any service. Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling today at air-right.com. That's AIR-RITE.com. Air Right Heating and Cooling. Doing it right since 1959.
Viking, dedicated to creating travel experiences for the thinking person, with programs designed for cultural enrichment on board and on shore. Discover more at Viking.com.
From the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Nikki Whaley. On the Edens, inbound from Lake Cook to Montrose, 18 minutes, outbound 15 minutes. On the Kennedy, inbound from Montrose to the Burn Interchange, 20 minutes, outbound is about 14 minutes. On the Eisenhower, inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 36 minutes, outbound is about 35 minutes. On the Stevenson, inbound from the Tri-State to Lakeshore Drive, about 36 minutes. Outbound is about 24 minutes. This report is sponsored by Rocket Mortgage. The home you've worked so hard for is ready to work hard for you with a home equity loan from Rocket Mortgage. To learn how you can turn your home's equity into cash, visit rocketmortgage.com today. Rocket Mortgage, LLC, licensed in 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org, number 3030. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a check your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be windy and cool with a mix of clouds and sun, reaching a high of 65. Tonight stays breezy early, then turns mainly clear and cool with a low of 48. Tomorrow, expect a blend of sun and clouds, hitting a high of 67. Sunday will be partly sunny with a high of 69. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Health Quest Radio with Dr. David Kolbaba. Saturday mornings at 11. Visit healthquestradio.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. After the much publicized because of the cool Miami Vice-like video. Maybe I'm dating myself. Probably something reference that's some terminalist or something more updated than that. Lioness. After the video showing a U.S. airstrike on what was ostensibly a drug smuggling boat out of Venezuela, escalating the war on drugs, I'd say. Direct strikes from the United States, taking out identified members of drug cartels. After these cartels had been designated as terrorist organizations by the Trump administration. Secretary of State Rubio had this to say. Basically, more to come.
The United States has long, for many, many years, established intelligence that allow us to interdict and stop drug boats. And we did that. And it doesn't work. Interdiction doesn't work because these drug cartels, what they do is they know they're going to lose, 2% of their cargo. They bake it into their economics. What will stop them is when you blow them up, when you get rid of them. The President of the United States is going to wage war on narco-terrorist organizations. This one was operating in international waters, headed towards the United States to flood our country with poison. And under President Trump, those days are over.
And it wasn't a one-off. Rubio says strikes like these will happen again.
Daniel DePietris, our next guest, suggests that attempting to kill your way out of the cartels is a bit naive. He joins us now for more on this topic as well as others. We'll talk about other theaters. Daniel DePetris is a fellow at Defense Priorities, as a syndicated foreign affairs columnist for the Tribune and Newsweek. Daniel, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Dan. Thanks for having me.
So, develop that. Why is Marco Rubio being naive?
Well, look, I mean, I think what the administration is obviously trying to do is deter other cartels and criminal organizations in Latin America from sending, drugs to the United States. And they've made the calculation that the best way to do that is to kill, do a flashy symbolic strike against a single boat in the Southern Caribbean that may or may not be carrying drugs. We don't really know because the administration hasn't given us any information on it. The reason I think is pretty naive is because we've done this before. In the 70s, 80s, and 90s, we've attempted to, help regional governments essentially kill our way out of the problem. And what happens is, at best, we have a temporary lull in the drug shipments. But these organizations essentially, find different routes and different ways of adapting to these things. And lo and behold, the drugs keep pouring into across the southern border. So we've had a history of this. We've had 3 decades of history of trying to kill our way out of the problem, and it's not working.
Yeah,
that's basically what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, if that was the sole approach, but of course it isn't. I mean, even this, the big splash Jeanine Pirro made, announcing the largest seizure of meth manufacturing chemicals in U.S. history, 700,000 pounds sent from China to the U.S. via the Sinaloa cartel that were seized by the federal government. But we've had, this is the biggest, but we've had splashy interdictions like this before too. And so I guess the larger question is not whether this is these are tactics that are part of a larger strategy, but whether the larger strategy represents any sort of break from what we've tried previously without great success.
Right. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. And the fact is, I don't know what the administration's strategy is, quite frankly. I mean, they seem to be wanting to tackle the supply side of the problem, to take out the cartels where they are, where they operate, send more units to interdict certain shipments across the border, weak points across the border. And, I think if we really want to manage this issue, we can't solve it. Just trying to win the war on drugs is like trying to win the war on poverty. It's an unwinnable war. The best we can do is really chip away at the problem and manage it to an adequate level. And I think what the administration needs to do beyond the supply side is really think about how do we decrease the demand and limit the amount of resources that the cartels scoop up every single day.
Maybe
I'd be more.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but maybe we should just do what we did with the domestic mafia in this country. Just take over all their rackets and make them government rackets. Drugs, prostitution, gambling, right? I mean, we haven't legalized prostitution yet, but it's coming if some New York City councilmen and Illinois state legislators have their way. But isn't I mean, it is to some extent, yeah, we had the RICO and we had the prosecutions, but what we really did is have the government take over a bunch of the rackets.
Yeah, I mean, nothing shocks me anymore, right? If the administration announces something like that wouldn't shock me in the least. But the fact is, like today, I don't know what the Trump administration is trying to do in terms of what their overarching approach is here. I mean, the war on drugs is a failed approach, and we have 5+ decades showing it's a failed approach. We have 75,000, 80,000 Americans dying every year of overdoses. So the numbers obviously tell us that focusing strictly on supply, which is my point, is just a failed way to do it. You have to tackle supply, but you can't exclusively look at it. You also have to look at the demand. And I don't know if the administration understands that or is just purposely neglecting it. I don't know.
Well, and and part of it is you look at the suppliers too. And we had a conversation a couple weeks ago with investigative journalist who follows the cartels and follows what's happening within the Sheinbaum government in Mexico. And the suggestions that's been made, including by a former, basically cartel distributor who turned one of the two brothers, I can't remember their cartel, but who turned state's evidence against the cartels, and now, of course, is, in hiding, was essentially that Trump is taking a different approach here. He is shaking the foundations of both the corruption within the Mexican government and some of the infrastructure with the cartels. Now, as you say, I mean, these are multi-billion-dollar organizations. They're resilient, but it was just interesting to hear an inside perspective on both the impact that the Trump administration is having on cartel infrastructure, as well as on perhaps providing incentives for the Mexican government to be less cordial with the cartels, to be generous.
Yeah, I mean, let's see, right? I mean, it's still very early on, and it could very well be that I return to your program in a couple months and have a mea culpa.
Yeah.
But look, I mean, there's no question in my mind that there is foundational systemic corruption within Mexico.
Oh yeah,
and a lot of collusion between certain Mexican politicians and the cartels. It's the way they do. It's the way they do business in Mexico. Not everybody. I don't want to generalize everybody.
Right.
But there are specific people in there that the United States knows, and frankly, I think the Mexican government knows it as well, that collaborate with cartels for either personal enrichment or because it makes their jobs easier. So there's no question that is occurring.
Moving to the Middle East, I mean, there was this report earlier in the week that we haven't really had a chance to discuss, but I'll get your perspective on it, that the Trump administration is weighing a plan to relocate Gaza's 2 million residents and place them in territory to be determined under U.S. control for at least a decade. The proposal is called the Great Trust, which goes back to this sort of woozy vision of Gaza being the Riviera of the Mediterranean. What is your perspective on? I mean, the idea of Trump trying to disentangle us from foreign adventurism, and then we would have control from considerable distance over 2 million Gazans for a decade.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost as if Trump doesn't have a coherent, vision of what the Middle East is. It's not exactly a surprise, I don't think. I mean, the campaign, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, Dan, because Trump had a very, very, positive way of talking about the Middle East that was appealing to the American voter. And that was essentially, we've done everything wrong there. Every time we try to solve a problem in this region, we make it worse. And the best way for the United States to proceed is essentially to disassociate ourselves from the muck of the Middle East, the internal politics that can't be solved by the Americans. And, if this plan is an actual serious plan the administration is reviewing, it would be the exact opposite of what Trump campaigned on. It would essentially mesh the United States in a part of the region that is hopeless, and that's a charitable word to use. So I hope the administration decides to not pursue this. I don't know if it's an actual formal plan that the administration is just looking at, or if this was actually like a brainchild of somebody within the White House. I hope it's the former and not the latter, because this is not something that we should pursue. And frankly, practically speaking, it wouldn't work because the region is not going to cooperate with a scheme like this.
Moving to Eastern Europe, I saw that Putin and Xi were getting along famously. And then enter Erdogan, Turkey's autocrat. And the suggestion that Erdogan may be the key to getting Putin to move towards some sort of deal and a cessation of hostilities. Certainly Xi is not going to be that linchpin, but do you place any stock in Erdogan as some sort of, Qatarian-esque broker here?
Well, I think Erdogan has proven that he is interested in, resolving the war, or at least establishing some sort of a ceasefire. And he has hosted discussions between the Russians and the Ukrainians before. To the extent that Erdogan has any power whatsoever to impact the outcome or to convince Putin to sign on to something, I think is a different question. Just because you're a facilitator and want something doesn't necessarily mean you have the power to bring it about. And I think that's captures Erdogan's dilemma right now. So I'm glad he's offering his diplomatic services, but I wouldn't put too much stock in Erdogan's ability to actually, pull a rabbit out of the hat.
And what about Modi, the Indian PM? I mean, he got sideways with Trump for doing business with Russia, but he met with Putin. He's pushing a peaceful resolution on Ukraine after Trump imposed tariffs, increased tariffs on India for his doing business with Russia. And so the question is Modi, does he have sort of economic pressure he can bring to bear for doing deals with Putin and for Putin wanting access to the Indian market? Or is he just middling Russia and the United States here without much real prospect of being impactful?
Yeah, I mean, I think Modi is an interesting character. He does have economic power over the Russians. I mean, India is now the top purchaser of Russian, seaborne crude oil, and that gives the Russians tens of billions of dollars a year, which they're obviously using to finance the war in Ukraine. So if Modi chose to stop buying Russian oil, sure, I mean, it would impact Russia's budget and complicate Putin's decision-making to an extent. Of course, Modi's not going to do that. So theoretically, he could impact it. Practically speaking, Modi has shown no inclination whatsoever to, decrease imports of Russian oil, let alone stop imports of Russian oil. And frankly, if he did that, oil prices globally would go up sporadically, pretty exponentially. So right now, it's the theory of the case is yes, but practically speaking, he's not going to be doing that for India's own domestic reasons and for pure politics.
And the Europeans, what did you make of the report that Ursula von der Leyen's plane lost all GPS approach in travel to Bulgaria, and that perhaps it was Putin that was jamming the EU president's plane's GPS to send a message about, basically how weak and impotent he thinks she and they are?
Yeah, I think that's a perfectly plausible explanation. I mean, the Russians have engaged in significant sabotage operations in Europe over the last 2 to 3 years. And it's really an easy lever for the Russians to pull to retaliate against, European arms sales and financial support to the Ukrainians. So that is extremely plausible to me. Fortunately, nobody was killed in this incident, but it just goes to show you that the Russians are willing to, be risky in pursuit of a war that Putin seems willing to carry on for years. And, for somebody like Trump who wants to end it reasonably, I would add, it's very discouraging.
Well,
to put it mildly.
And like I said, I mean, doesn't it indicate, I mean, he just is not at all impressed by Western Europe.
No. Neither is Trump.
Well, yeah, it's true. Well, yeah, I mean, she's reading it right, unfortunately. All right, last question. This is an easy one. So North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un went to see Putin, too. Everybody's going to see Putin. And he brought his own toilet so that nobody gets Kim Jong-un's DNA. Is anybody really interested in Kim Jong-un's DNA?
Oh, God, I hope not. I would hope not. If we are, we where are we as a society, as a civilization? We're in deep.
Is somebody trying to clone him for Team America, a sequel to Team America or something? I don't know. It was a bizarre story. I just thought it was sort of funny because he's a risible figure. Anyway, Daniel DePetris, fellow at Defense Priorities and a syndicated foreign affairs columnist for the Chicago Tribune and Newsweek. Daniel DePetris, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan.
And he joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer. Gain insight into building strong marriages and raising godly children with Focus on the Family with Jim Daly. Each weekday at 11:30 a.m. on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life.
When the power goes out, life stops. Heat, AC, fridge, phones, all gone. But with a Generac home standby generator from True Power Generator Service, your home powers back on automatically, so you're never left in the dark. Book your consultation today at TruePowerGenerator.com. That's TruePowerGenerator.com. And right now, AM 560 listeners get a free 10-year extended warranty with their Generac. True Power Generator Service and Generac. It's not just a generator, it's a power move.
At Signature Bank, going the distance for business banking customers is what we do every day. We understand that business owners have a strategic mission, a drive to succeed, a plan for growth, and don't have time to wait for a bank to respond. With Signature Bank, you not only have a banking partner that has roots right here in Chicago, but our decisions are made locally too. Signature Bank knows that when you have a question or problem about your business, you want answers. You need someone who will pick up the phone or respond to your text. You need someone who is always there for you. That's Signature Bank. We are a team that wants to get to know you and your business. Want to be Signature Bank's next success story? Give us a call today at 773-467-5630 or visit us online at signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender.
If you have unfiled taxes or are in debt to the IRS, this is important news. Did you know the IRS has programs specifically designed to help people struggling with tax debt? Powerful tax assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify. No one knows these programs better than the experts at Optima Tax Relief, America's most trusted tax resolution firm. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, their award-winning tax attorneys and licensed professionals have resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. One call to Optima can start the process, helping to put an end to your worries about wage garnishment, asset seizure, and other aggressive IRS actions. Find the best options to solve your tax problems. Call the experts at Optima Tax Relief today for a free consultation.
Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Did you know that AM 560 Radio has a full-service digital marketing division called Salem Surround? If you're a business decision maker, listen up. AM 560 listeners are everywhere your potential audience is. So are our incredible targeting capabilities. We localize digital marketing and put it within reach of every business, small and large, in Chicagoland and beyond. Salem Surround offers AI-powered marketing solutions that reach your ideal audience. Whether or not you tap into the proven live, local, and emotional connection that AM 560 Radio brings, Salem Surround offers a total marketing solution to our partners. All-in-one digital solutions that provide targeted local digital and social media ads, Google AdWords management, website services, video strategy, search optimization, and even a management dashboard to offer you total campaign updates and transparency. Your Salem Surround representative is located right here in Chicago. Experience the Salem Surround digital revolution today. Call 847-472-8951. That's 847-472-8951.
At AlmostFreeTeeth.com, they're dedicated to making smiles great again. If you have medical PPO insurance, find out how you could save 90% off on average to get a beautiful dental implant-supported smile. Check if you qualify right now at AlmostFreeTeeth.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up at 8:08, who's going to get fired at the Bureau of Labor Statistics for this number? Only 22,000 jobs created in August, if we should even bother with that number, as I say every month. We're going to bother with it a little bit with Jim Perry. We'll talk about the larger markets and economic well-being of our fair country as well. That's all at 8:08. It is now 8 o'clock on AM 560. WIND Chicago.
Another worse than expected jobs report.
I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News, showing there wasn't much hiring last month. Just 22,000 jobs created.
Unemployment rate coming in as expected, 4.3%. So that would be higher than July's 4.2%.
Fox Business Network's Lauren Simonetti also has changes made to prior months' hiring.
June, it was revised down by 27,000, getting you to negative 13,000. And the change for July up by 6,000, getting you to 79,000.
Well, those are much lower revisions than we got in the July jobs report that cut hiring by about 500,000 jobs for May and June, prompting President Trump to fire the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. He has not reacted yet to this morning's update. Later today, we'll get another Trump executive order that'll make the Defense Department war again, rebranding it to a name it used to be called.
Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth will also be referred to as Secretary of War, according to the White House. The order instructs Hegseth to propose both legislative and executive actions to make the name change permanent, one of several initiatives the Trump administration is taking as part of what it calls its Warrior Ethos campaign. Public-facing websites and signage at the Pentagon will also reflect the name change.
Fox's Jared Halpern at the White House. The Trump D.C. crime crackdown will continue. The National Guard deployment will be extended through November. The president says it's made Washington virtually crime-free, and he's planning to send troops to other cities like Chicago. Illinois Democratic Governor J.B. Pritzker plans to file a lawsuit when that happens.
We heard that would begin early on Saturday morning.
Russia's leaders reacting to a plan by 26 European countries to send troops to Ukraine after the war with Russia ends as a force to guarantee security.
Vladimir Putin issued a warning for those nations to keep troops out of Ukraine before the war is over. During a panel at the Eastern Economic Forum, Putin said, quote, "If any troops appear there, especially now while fighting is ongoing, we assume that they will be legitimate targets."
That's Tanya J. Powers. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It's 61 degrees in Chicago in the AM 560 The Answer newsroom. I'm Nikki Whaley. Governor Pritzker is vowing to take action if the president sends the National Guard to Chicago. The governor said his office will immediately go to court if military troops are sent to the city.
So that's going to be our first line of defense, is getting a court to issue a TRO or other injunction against that activity.
Pritzker says he expects federal immigration agents to assemble in the Chicago area today and begin actions tomorrow. He called on anyone planning to protest to do so peacefully. And the Chicago Teachers Union is preparing students and their families for immigration raids and the possibility of the National Guard. CTU President Stacey Davis Gates says their goal is to protect the students and their loved ones.
We are in community with these young people. We care deeply for them, and we're going to demonstrate that care and that concern. And because we respect and honor the families and the grown-ups that they come from,
teachers today will be handing out Know Your Rights flyers and organizing teams to monitor the area around schools. Gates also urged Chicago Public Schools to be ready to offer online learning options for families who want to keep their children at home. And a Mexican Independence Day celebration in Chicago is being postponed due to possible ICE activity in the city. The El Grito Festival was planned for September 13th and 14th in Grant Park's Butler Field. Organizers say the festival's location made it a more visible target for ICE agents. New dates weren't announced, and organizers vowed to return once conditions allow. News is a service of AlmostFreeTeeth.com. Overpaying for dental implants is over. If you have a Blue Cross Blue Shield PPO or FEP, you could save 90% off on average to get your smile back. Learn more and check if you qualify at AlmostFreeTeeth.com. A check of the roads coming up in 2 minutes, but now time for the Signature Bank Business Beat.
I'm Liz Clayman, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Stock futures are mostly higher after an upbeat earnings report and forecast from artificial intelligence chipmaker Broadcom, though markets will be reacting today to the August employment report. There's another update on tariffs. The U.S. has lowered tariffs on Japanese automobiles and parts from 25% to 15%. President Trump signed an executive order implementing a trade pact with Japan, struck last month, month. It's looking like artificial intelligence will play a role in your mortgage signing and student loan application. DocuSign, the electronic signature company, is raising its outlook for the year because of demand for its AI tool that summarizes and analyzes agreement documents. It's called Intelligent Agreement Management. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Coselda. Invested in you.
Town Hall News, where conservative voices cut through the noise from breaking headlines to fearless opinion. We report what matters without apology. Written by people who actually believe what you believe. Town Hall tells the stories the corporate press buries, from President Trump to Capitol Hill, from pivotal elections to your everyday lives. Join the movement at townhall.com. Real stories, real reporters, real conservative media.
When the power goes out, life stops. Heat, AC, fridge, phones, all gone. But with a Generac home standby generator from True Power Generator Service, your home powers back on automatically, so you're never left in the dark. Book your consultation today at truepowergenerator.com. That's TRUpowergenerator.com. And right now, AM 560 listeners get a free 10-year extended warranty with their Generac. True Power Generator Service and Generac. It's not just a generator, it's a power move.
Millions are choosing NordVPN to stay safer online. Get NordVPN today with 77% off and up to 3 months extra. NordVPN will encrypt your online traffic and help you avoid phishing, scams, and malware. Get the special NordVPN deal today at nordvpn.com. This offer includes a 77% discount on a 2-year plan and up to 3 extra months. Savings and additional terms apply and can be found on nordvpn.com. The offer is valid until October 15th.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at ethos.com/term. That's ethos.com/term.
From the Team Hogberg Traffic Center, I'm Nikki Whaley. On the Edens inbound from Lake Cook to Montrose, 19 minutes. Outbound, 21 minutes. On the Kennedy inbound from O'Hare to the Byrne Interchange, 44 minutes. And on the Kennedy from Montrose to the Byrne Interchange, 32 minutes. Outbound, it's about 14 minutes from the Byrne Interchange to Montrose. Outbound from Byrne to O'Hare, 36 minutes. On the Eisenhower inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 39 minutes. Outbound is about 21 minutes. On the Stevenson inbound from the Tri-State to Lakeshore Drive, 47 minutes. Outbound is going to be about 18 minutes. On the Dan Ryan inbound from 95th to the Byrne Interchange, 27 minutes. And on the outbound lanes, it's about 11 minutes. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now a quick check of your forecast from the National Weather Service.
Today will be windy and cool with a mix of clouds and sun, reaching a high of 65. Tonight stays breezy early, then mainly clear and cool with a low of 48. Tomorrow expect a blend of sun and clouds, hitting a high of 67. Sunday will be partly sunny with a high of 69. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by HealthQuest Radio with Dr. David Kolbaba. Saturday mornings at 11. Visit healthquestradio.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. So the Department of Justice has formally opened a criminal investigation into Fed Reserve Governor Lisa Cook, Biden appointee, fired by President Trump amid allegations of mortgage fraud, referred to the Department of Justice by Bill Pulte over at Housing Finance Authority. And Of course, this is a part of Trump's takeover of the Fed, allegedly. First of all, I think they got Lisa Cook dead to rights, and I'm not the only one. Ellie Honig, who is the legal analyst for CNN, had this, and he was no fan of President Trump. He works for CNN, did I mention? Had this to say about the case against Lisa Cook.
I've seen this before, and that's why my European friends told me before Trump was elected not to make fun of what was happening, to take very seriously what was happening, because they've had recent skirmishes with fascism. They know the impact of fascism, and this guy is definitely a fascist and embraces that, and will sow divisions in this country that that will take a long time to mend.
Okay, well, that was Lisa Cook a couple of years ago calling Trump a fascist, and so this is being used to say, oh, she called him a fascist, and so this is his, retribution for that. Well, she wasn't even on his radar until Pulte raised the issue of her multiple primary residences, all three of them. And Ellie Honig just went through it on CNN. I was searching for the clip, but and just basically said, look, I mean, this is a case. And when you're, as our friend Jim Perry will tell us in a minute, when you're applying for a mortgage and you've got a primary residence, you get better treatment, as we talked about when this case first broke. And she did it 3 times in different jurisdictions over a short period of time, which is saving her points on all of these loans and, potentially tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars over the life of a loan. I mean, it's material dollars that she is benefiting. And as a Fed board governor, I don't think like clerical error, paperwork, I didn't know. I don't think, I was ignorant of the complications with respect to, laws governing mortgages and borrowing. I don't think that's going to wash. Maybe it's a paperwork issue 1 time, 3 times in 3 different places. For more on this and other financial matters, pleased to be joined by Jim Perry, founder, CIO, Perry International Capital Partners. Jim, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
You are welcome. Good morning.
So, the Lisa Cook thing in the context of he's politicizing the Fed. It's a takeover of the Fed. This is Trump's gambit to depose Powell and so on and so forth.
Right. The Fed is very political. Anybody that thinks it's not doesn't look at the facts. And it is very independent, too. And it'll continue to be independent. And the idea that Trump is actually going to try to take over the Fed is just absurd.
Well, and again, the Lisa Cook case, too, is, this, like, primary residence, and you do it twice and you do it 3 times, and that's called mortgage fraud. And she's not going to be the first person ever prosecuted under the law for that.
That's right. And she won't be the first Fed official who's had to leave a job, right? I mean, there's been insider trading, and when they get caught, they should get caught if they're breaking the law. And it appears that she has. So I think the case is quite clear, and she actually has been fired, correct?
Yeah, she's been fired. She's
been
suing.
Fired.
Yeah, she's
right.
suing.
So that's going to fall apart. So you're going to get a new Fed governor, it looks like, which is good because Trump wants it to be more political. He wants to take control of it from a philosophical standpoint.
Yeah, but who doesn't? What president doesn't want people that are philosophically aligned with them?
Absolutely.
At the Fed board of governors or the Fed chairman? Every single one? I mean, every single one wants that.
Right.
For every agency, for every post,
Sure.
I mean, you want people aligned with the mission, and
right.
So
this is not a new story.
No, and oh, by the way, we're talking about 15-year terms here. So she's either too stupid to be on the Fed board or too corrupt. You can choose which one it is,
or both.
Yeah, or both.
Right.
All right, let's talk about the jobs numbers. As you heard, top of the hour, 22,000 jobs created in August. Seemingly a rather anemic number, but yet the market continues to roar. So, with the tick up by 1/10 of a point in the jobless rate, does that mean anything other than for those people who are unemployed?
No, it doesn't mean anything. 4.3, 4.4. The unemployment rate is still pretty low. What's interesting, and I've come on this show after the non-farm payroll number for a period of time, it's more interesting now than normal. And the reason for that is that, the Bureau of Labor Statistics officials have been fired. Powell is out at Jackson Hole. And as you know, the Fed's got a dual mandate, right? It's inflation and the employment report. So balance for everybody. And they're kind of letting the inflation part of it go. And what's interesting about the employment part of the Fed's mandate is that, and a lot of people don't know this, but I think it's important, the Kansas City Fed does a symposium in Jackson Hole since the Volcker years, and they always have a theme, right? So the main subject matter of the symposium was the employment part of the economy as we go into a new sort of AI revolution, and what's it mean for, the average guy. So the whole symposium was about the labor market. And, these guys that go there, they're econometric sort of noodleheads that kind of swap research papers, right? So the fact that Powell was talking about the labor market in a different way, that it's curious now, anybody that really kind of came away from Powell's speech at Jackson Hole and has an opinion about rate cuts or not, to me, it was pretty neutral, quite honestly. And if you really come away from it with the idea that the Fed's going to cut, and many people do want that and need that, every real estate developer and anybody that wants a mortgage and the whole financial industry. So everyone's clamoring for this cut. But
but I mean, do you think it comes next month or this month? I should say
17th. Yeah. The futures market says yes. There's a lot of data that comes first. If it's going to be just about labor, and Powell's a political guy, and he doesn't want to dump the economy into a recession, they're going to do it. They're going to do something. Does the economy really need it? I don't think so. There's so much money out there, and the stock market continues to roll ahead because there's so much fiscal dominance, fiscal stimulus in the system. So the financial system and the economy don't really need more money, more stimulus from the Fed.
There's so much fiscal stimulus in the system, meaning all the Fed asset purchases, meaning still leftover funny money from the federal government.
Correct.
Combination of the two.
Correct. And if you look at some of these numbers, money supply, for example, right? And if you just think about the last 15 years from the great financial crisis, money supply has quadrupled, right? It's gone to $30 trillion, right, from $8. And the Fed's balance sheet is at $7 trillion. 15 years ago, it was less than $1. And, just deficit spending's $2 trillion, right? So you've got $3.5 trillion worth of excess bank reserves. You've got another $3 trillion sitting in the Treasury that's been allocated but not distributed, and money supplies out there. So, everybody who doesn't need to borrow and has access to funding from a standpoint of like direct funding, money's cheap. If you need to borrow, you can't. And that's the problem. The real problem is that the middle class, that 35-year-old kid that wants to buy a house because he's got 2 kids, they can't get mortgages. Home prices are at all-time highs still. Automobile prices are all-time highs. And everybody in the country is looking at prices, cost of living is up 50% in the last 4 years. And that's a problem still.
And so the cost of borrowing. So then for startups, are we going to start seeing IPOs again?
I get.
Or is it all going to still be private equity?
Yeah, I get that question a lot, and I think it's private equity. I don't believe that small companies need to go into the public markets with all that scrutiny. They have to worry about internal cash flows and free cash flows and people pulling out. So I think the private equity and the private debt markets are going to continue to grow quicker than the IPO market.
You mentioned the stock market generally. So this piece in the Journal earlier in the week, the most expensive stock market in its history. And, the suggestion is, are we blowing up a bubble that is going to burst at some point, particularly because so much of the increase in valuation is attributed to the Magnificent Seven?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I think it's very easy to lean back and look at history and say, boy, nothing more expensive, .com boom and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
But I think I still like the stock market. I think there's a lot of money out there. I think the stock market's going to continue to do well. I think the economy is going to continue to do well. And I think that, if you look at the price earnings multiple of a stock, and you can't just look at NVIDIA or, Meta or something like that, but the earnings that are coming out of these big mega scalers are just enormous, right? I mean, NVIDIA's, revenues were up over 50%, and their profit margins are at 75%, and net income is up 22% or something like that. And they're not alone. It's the top 10 or 15 guys out there. So what's happening to the economy is that these big hyperscalers don't have to borrow money, and any new technology that might help them get a bigger footprint, they're buying them, right? So I think I saw of the Mag 7 this year, those guys have bought 850 different businesses, right? 850. So the footprint and the market dominance of these guys is getting bigger and bigger. So the big companies are getting larger, which is not unusual. It happens in Japan, happens in Europe. So I think you're seeing a real change in the economy, and the whole world's getting much more productive. You don't need as many employees, and earnings in these big companies are continuing to rise. Q2 earnings, Dan, revenues in the S&P 500 were up 13%. And that's very unusual. That's a big, big number. And it was 12% last quarter, right? So this is not a one-off deal. So the revenues of these big, big companies are getting bigger and bigger because they are able to raise prices because people are willing to pay them because they're afraid of prices going up higher. Inflation's still the problem.
So are there any foreseeable headwinds for these companies?
I think the big question, and Ken Griffin was talking about this, he was on the cover of Barron's last week, and he said, the real question is, is AI going to be the real story that we see that everybody believes it to be? Is productivity going to go up? Are earnings going to go up? Is this going to help drive the economy? And I would say in the short answer, I think it is. I think AI is really helping a lot of small businesses, and they are reducing costs across the board: healthcare, legal, education, finance, logistics. Companies are cutting costs because of AI, and they're willing to pay the Microsofts and the Metas of the world more for a subscription to get this kind of AI-driven data that helps them become more efficient. So I think the AI revolution is real. I think the spending on AI is legitimate. I think last year it was about $2 trillion of all businesses. It's expected to be, $10 trillion in the next 4 years. This is a huge number. GDP is 30, right? So a third of GDP is for the AI build out. And that's across the board, right? That's energy,
right?
That's coding, that's power, that's chips, it's everything. So I really think the AI-driven economy will continue to be the dominant feature of our lives over the next decade or two or three.
But that's not to say there aren't hedgers out there, because I also note that gold is at an all-time high. And it can't just be the gold bugs that are responsible for that.
I think gold has made another new high as crypto continues to do well as well. And the reason they're doing it is they're great hedges against a financial system that really is never going to be able to fix itself, right? I mean, national debt's $38 trillion, right? How are you going to get that down? I think they're going to keep letting it go. China does it, Europe does it, now we're doing it. We're not alone. It's not just the United States. So I think the risk is gold continues to do well, crypto continues to do well, because they are a hedge against a financial system that is not going to be able to survive in its current form in the years ahead.
Well, I mean, that's a big statement. I mean, not being able to survive in its current form. This is the AI. This is part of the AI revolution too, right? The singular balance sheets, kind of developed paradigm shift, I guess, is the better way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, you look at this guy Stephen Murin, right, and Scott Bessent. You've talked about this sort of Mar-a-Lago Accord. What these guys are really thinking about is readjusting the global financial system in a way that allows a more equitable flow between regions of the world that is better for this country, right? And get government out of it. And I don't know how it's going to turn out, but because there's so much uncertainty with the banking system, which, by the way, is incredibly profitable right now, right? This banking system, U.S. financial system, dominates the world. The J.P. Morgans, the Morgan Stanleys, Goldman Sachs, these guys are just behemoths. They're doing great. They're the best investment banks, not only here, but in Europe and Asia. So these guys are making a lot of money. Financial engineering's a real deal. I was talking about Ken Griffin earlier. Citadel is a tremendously profitable organization, and it's all high-frequency trading, right? It's just all data, and they've got something like 270 PhDs, and they're making, 19%, 20% on their money every year. The Fed's got 2,000 PhDs and doesn't know how to get to break even, right? So the world is changing.
Different incentive structure, too. Right. They have something to do with it.
Correct.
Just on the banking, I guess my question, the vision for what that looks like to, I hate to use this metaphor, but Main Street, right? I mean, it's interesting to hear that the big guys are doing so well, and of course all those people that are associated with those organizations and all the business they throw off. So I mean, it has definitely a ripple effect. But the people that are struggling under the higher 50% increase in the cost of living that you described earlier, and what the future looks like for them in a workaday job where you're making, I don't know, 80 to 100 grand, and you got 2 kids you're trying to get through school and through college, and how do you make it with the cost of living going up at the pace it is?
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, it's a real strain. I've got 4 kids, and when you get through at the end of the day taking care of everything that you need to take care of as a parent, the financial pressures on the average household are really tremendous, and it's really hurting. So, again, this is sort of a more philosophical sort of discussion that we normally have, but the bifurcation of wealth and non-wealth is really getting worse and worse, and that's the biggest problem. And I think there's gonna have to be a realignment of some kind, because that's not going to come back by itself, right? The people who have money, who have assets, they don't care about inflation, right? Their properties are going up in value and their portfolio is going up in value. But if you don't own anything and you can't buy a house, you look at rents. I mean, my kids are all paying rent. The rents in the city of Chicago are at all-time highs. Mm-hmm. And it's not just Chicago. It's New York and Denver and Miami and New Orleans, and it's everywhere. So you cannot get ahead. Free cash flow, disposable income at the household level is under tremendous strain for a huge portion of the population. So how are we going to adjust that to make it more equitable so that politicians appear to be sensitive and aware of the changes that need to happen in society to make this a more stable economy and a more stable society? And the answers are not here yet. And I'm not so sure that cutting rates necessarily helps, right? It helps the banks and it helps real estate guys. But does it help the 35-year-old kid that's paying, twice as much for rent this year than he was 2 years ago with 2 kids, or 1, or can't even have kids because it's too expensive to do it? I'm not so sure that more inflation is necessarily the right way to go, knowing that the financial system is loving it, and my real estate friends and financial friends are going to, get angry at me for saying this stuff. But more stimulus is going to make the situation worse, not better.
Jim Perry, founder, CIO, Perry International Capital Partners, joining us in studio. Jim, thank you as always. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper. Hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
$5,000. That's the average amount of money people in the U.S. are now spending on gas in a year. $5,000. That's crazy. If you drive, you have to download Upside, the free app that gives you cash back every time you get gas. That's right. You can earn real cash back with Upside just by buying the gas you're already buying. You can literally start earning cash back today.
I use Upside every time I fill up, and I've already made around $300.
You're putting gas in your car anyway. Why not get real cash back? If you like free money, download Upside.
I'm saving the cash I earn from using Upside to help pay for a vacation later this year.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code WEALTH25 to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code WEALTH25 for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code WEALTH25 for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
At Air Right Heating and Cooling, we know there's never a good time to be without AC in Chicagoland. If you can't remember the last time your AC was inspected, don't wait for it to fail during a heat wave. Get peace of mind by having Air Right take a look. Plus, AM 560 listeners get $56 off any service. Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling today at air-right.com. That's AIR-RITE.com. Air Right Heating and Cooling. Doing it right since 1959.
This is Carol Platt-Liebau for townhall.com. It's the stuff of nightmares. The Biden administration's open borders resulted in a scandal that should keep every American awake at night. Between 2019 and 2023, 448,000 unaccompanied minors came into our country. ICE was required to hand them over to the Office of Refugee Resettlement within 72 hours. From there, NGOs were to deliver them to the sponsors on their paperwork. But many little ones were handed over without anyone confirming the identity of those taking them. Some addresses were storage units or strip clubs. It's very clear thousands of children, some as young as 5, have been sex trafficked. The Trump administration is working to find these children, but for the left, it seems they were just collateral damage from opening the border to import a new group of voters. Prison is too good for the people who victimized these children. I'm Carol Platt-Liebau.
When the power goes out, life stops. Heat, AC, fridge, phones, all gone. But with a Generac home standby generator from True Power Generator Service, your home powers back on automatically, so you're never left in the dark. Book your consultation today at TruePowerGenerator.com. That's TruePowerGenerator.com. And right now, AM 560 listeners get a free 10-year extended warranty with their Generac. True Power Generator Service and Generac. It's not just a generator, it's a power move.
AM 560, The Answer.
Open mic! Open mic Friday!
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Yes, it's that time of the week. Open mic Friday. Taking your calls, 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. And text line, your calls with comments, compliments, concerns, and general criticisms, too. And general crack pottery, of course. We always like to feature general crack pottery. But we begin this Open Mic Friday with our friend and Turnkey.pro founder, David Kolsak, as we always do. David, thanks for joining us. Do we have David? David Kolsak, come in. Yes? No?
Oh.
David.
I'm here.
Okay, there we go. All right. Welcome.
I didn't get cut in there. Good morning, Dan.
Yeah.
You covered a bit of this earlier, but I caught a bit of that grilling that RFK had yesterday on Capitol Hill. What an amazing show of partisan politics. The lack of respect and decorum was really amazing to see. But the RFK Jr. not backing down part was the real show. I would say that the whole hearing not only displayed the partisanship, but more importantly showed who the politicians serve, and it's not you. They don't care about your health. It's clear that they want Kennedy gone because he threatens them and their source of money. They're trying to push RFK Jr. out of his position by creating chaos. Even the CDC employees and the ones that just got terminated are circulating a document to create as much chaos as possible around Secretary Kennedy and get him out of there. You've got these politicians just making things up as they go. In that hearing, Senator Wyden from Oregon said that Senator Kennedy is dead set on making it harder to get vaccines and that kids are going to die because of it. And then you've got the former director of the CDC telling the Wall Street Journal in an op-ed saying that she was told to pre-approve the recommendations of the vaccine advisory panel, newly filled with people who have publicly expressed anti-vaccine rhetoric. And Secretary Kennedy responded by saying he never told her to pre-approve those recommendations and says he never had a private meeting with her. All of his meetings, he said, were and are done with multiple people in the room where they corroborate what he says. How much do you think Senator Wyden is getting paid by Big Pharma? And then Mr. Bennett, who you talked about earlier, comes forward and confronts RFK Jr. with the fact that he fired the entire vaccine advisory panel and put people in like Dr. Malone, who said that the mRNA vaccines causes forms of AIDS and can damage children's brains, heart, and immune system, even though Dr. Malone is one of the inventors of the mRNA technology. It was a circus. You want to know why I fired people at the CDC, asked Kennedy? Because we are the sickest country in the world. That's why we fired people at the CDC. They didn't do their job. This was their job to keep us healthy, and I need to fire some of those people to make sure it doesn't happen again. Under President Trump's leadership, we're enacting a once-in-a-generation shift from sick care to a true healthcare system that tackles the root causes of chronic disease. Then you've got Senator John Kennedy, who's often comical in his remarks, saying that he doesn't see where Secretary Kennedy has restored confidence in the CDC. He says all he sees at the moment is a multiple vehicle pileup. So the Republicans are turning on RFK Jr. As Senator Kennedy receives money from Big Pharma too. And then Senator Johnson from Wisconsin teased out the fact, and this is one example of thousands, Kennedy said, that Black children in Fulton County, Georgia, who got the MMR vaccine on time had a 260% increase of the children getting autism. That's the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine. The CDC ordered the data to be destroyed. Where's Al Sharpton on that one? And then you've got Pocahontas screaming at the top of her lungs that Kennedy is taking her precious vaccines away, where he clearly isn't. He's allowing free choice to the people, but he did take away his recommendation to use some of them. So RFK managed to get in the fact that Senator Warren received $855,000 from pharmaceutical companies. That was brutal, but really fun to watch. Warren accused him of unjustly firing the CDC director when that director told RFK Jr. that she was an untrustworthy person herself and reminded Pocahontas that she voted against her appointment anyway. So even Bernie Sanders, after admitting everyone receives money from Big Pharma, he tried to trap RFK Jr. by asking if the Trump claims that COVID vaccine saved millions of lives were true. RFK Jr. refused to give him the answer he wanted. Instead, he said that Trump should get a Nobel Peace Prize for, wait for it, making sure the country stayed open and got Americans back to work. He also said something revealing that the vaccines developed under Trump at the time perfectly matched the virus. He alluded to them dramatically changing the vaccines after Trump left office. Secretary Kennedy literally just told everyone that Operation Warp Speed was about keeping America open instead of being shut down for 5 to 10 years, where they would have been massive loss of life. And Kennedy admits that COVID vaccines, in fact, killed more people than all previous vaccines combined, according to VAERS data. My point is that the Dems are throwing a fit because Secretary Kennedy is cleaning out our health agencies of corruption and incompetence and breaking the Big Pharma lobby. The Dems are fighting tooth and nail to preserve Big Pharma's influence. They don't care about our health. They care about their money. So in just the past week, they've sided with criminals in big cities, trans school shooters, Venezuelan drug runners, and Big Pharma. It's painfully unbearable to sit patiently through this chaos and theater. However, it's great knowing that the crazier and wackier things get, the more people wake up and the closer we get to some resolution. So the people are behind you, Bobby. Clean it up. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, David. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro, answer line and text line. Take a couple calls. Rusty in Villa Park.
Yeah, I'm a little bit late to the party with the Fed officer that's got multiple residences and surely received interest rate breaks on those multiple residences as a couple weren't commercial. I'm just wondering if they got a homeowner's exemption on all three of those.
Well, I'm not sure about that. Thanks for the call, Rusty. But here is that I was referencing earlier when we were talking to Jim Perry about the commentary from Elie Honig, who's a former prosecutor and a legal analyst for CNN. Here's what he said about the case against Lisa Cook.
There is some suspicious activity here that's really problematic by Lisa Cook. Let me just sort of try to bottom line it. There's 3 properties, okay? Within a 2-week stretch, she gets a mortgage on a place in Michigan. and says that's her principal residence. 2 weeks later, she gets a mortgage on a place in Atlanta, in Georgia, and says that's her primary residence. And now there's a third place in Cambridge that she said was her secondary residence, but she's actually renting it out. Now, why would someone do all this? Because you get better interest rates, because you get better tax benefits. That can be worth tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. Thus far, and I find this really notable, in the briefs that have been submitted by Lisa Cook's lawyer, she was the plaintiff here. She filed the opening brief. No explanation of what she did, how this happened. There's some reference to maybe it's a clerical error. Today in court, Abby Lowell, very good lawyer, again, no explanation of how this happened. And the claim that this might be clerical error or just a mistake, that's not going to fly, because Lisa Cook is one of the most established, accomplished financial and economic experts in this country. And this is not just like any old person. Look, when you do a mortgage, there's all sorts of paperwork flying and terms, and maybe you can get confused or lost. I don't know if you're going to buy that from Lisa Cook. But the bottom line question, as Caitlin just said, is who has to show what here? I think that the allegations on their face could be enough for a judge to say, look, I'm going to defer to the president on cause.
Well, yeah, not only am I going to defer to the president on cause in terms of her termination, but that case is going to either a plea bargain or to a bench trial, to a judicial decision or maybe a jury decision, depending on how Lisa Cook wants to play it. But I mean, as I said, just that description is pretty airtight. Pretty airtight. She'll have her day in court, but pretty airtight that she committed mortgage fraud, and she should be punished accordingly. Honestly, this shouldn't be controversial. If I can get my mouse working here. Rick in Downers Grove.
Hey, good morning. Hey, going on the crime stats that they say are going down in these Democrat-run cities, I mean, I'm kind of skeptical based on past performance, because let's face it, the Democrats lied about Trump and Russia. They lied about the border. They lied about Biden. They lied about inflation. They lied about everything. But when it comes to crime stats in Democrat-run cities, all of a sudden they're going to play it straight. I just don't buy it. I think the crime stats are not legit. I mean, I could be wrong. Can't prove it, but.
Well, thanks for the call. Anyway, there is a look-see at the crime statistics as compiled in D.C., so we can start there to make an assessment. Yeah. The idea that these big cities would cook the books, or that even if they aren't cooking the books, that the data collection is pristine and timely reported. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of pitfalls there. The bottom line is what you're hearing from residents in these neighborhoods that we know are beset by violent crime. What you're hearing, not just anecdotally, but also from police that have a broader perspective on these things too. And the ebb and flow. I mean, right? We've seen a safer summer, a less violent summer than we did last year, but then on Labor Day you get a spike with 58 people shot and 7 dead, which was sort of customary in recent summers past. The bottom line is, are you doing anything that is so fundamentally different that we can expect the long-term trend to be a much safer city or region or state? And the answer is no. No. So you may be the beneficiary of a lot of different variables, but if you are still an antagonist towards policing and prosecuting and incarcerating habitual offenders, which they are in Chicago and most of these other major urban centers, then you can expect a return of the violence. Keith in Northwest Indiana.
Yeah, I'm sure you've seen the movie Tombstone.
I have.
You remember the scene where the cowboys crashed the Mexican wedding?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's the image that Pritzker's trying to put on ICE. You know, he's trying to paint this picture where ICE is going to come riding into town and just lassoing groups of Mexicans and just herd them into corrals and stuff, and the guy's a nut.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Keith. Well, it's worse than that. I mean, it's really cheap, disingenuous, incendiary demonization of law enforcement officers. And for all of his, if you protest peacefully. I should protest peacefully, a terrorist organization? Terror and cruelty is their point. That's what he said. Verlon, Michigan.
How you doing, Dan? Now, I've heard you talk throughout the weekend yesterday about I think you played a clip of Morning Joe trying to give Brandon Johnson 5 times the offer of what if you got 5,000 more police. You got to understand that you're talking to people. He's college educated, and most of these college educated people that's in power, they were taught that the police is nothing more than a modern day slave patrol.
Right.
They learned their art of policing from slave patrols. So they have a view of the police totally negative, that they don't need the police. They won't say abolish the police anymore, but they don't want the police. They want less policing. So you're never going to get across to any of these people that you need more policing to try to solve crime. Now, I understand a couple of things that he said. I don't know. I think he's younger than me. Yeah, we did have more murders back in the day, but you can use more police and these new ideas of helping people as I hate using this word collaborative, but as a collaborative effort to get down crime, to bring it to a minimum. So he just has it in his head that police is bad. Yeah, and just simply put.
Thanks for the call, Verlon. John, Bridgeport.
Yeah, just to piggyback off what the previous caller said. Chicago, listen, there's not enough manpower out there to answer service calls. And the proof is in the pudding. Lightfoot, you pulled money out of the budget because you wanted to defund the police because that was the quota. That was the model back then. Johnson did the same thing. So you bring the National Guard in, yes, there'll be a deterrence for some of these businesses that still stayed in Chicago from being harmed by the pestilence of the inner city. But all in all, there is not enough manpower. If you don't believe me, get in an auto accident on the street. See how long it takes for police to come to your aid. They're going to try to push you and take you to the district. There is just not enough manpower. So, yes, you do need the National Guard in here. And one last thing, I'm sorry to say, but it's not a gangbanging drug issue so much. It is an amoral and immoral issue. And it comes from the people coming from broken homes. Okay, and that's the bottom line. But I don't know if you're allowed to say that out there. Any politician is, but that's how I see it. So thanks. Have a good day, Dan. All right.
Thanks for the call, John. Well, just in terms of the 911 calls, I mean, and speaking to that, wirepoints.org has been tracking this for some years. The latest, and the increase is really interesting. Over half of, they have prioritization of calls. The high priority calls. There's priority 1 calls that include incidents with an imminent threat to life, bodily injury, or major property damage. Priority 2 calls, incidents where timely police action has the potential to affect the outcome of an incident. During pre-COVID, pre-George Floyd 2019, the city received more than 800,000 high priority 911 calls. Of those calls, only 156,000 or 19% had no officers available to immediately respond. That was in 2019. In 2022, that was 60%. 60% of high priority calls, hundreds of thousands of calls that went unresponded to, or the response was no, we don't have the police to provide immediate response. 19% in 2019. 60% in 2022. At about this time in 2023, it was tracking at 52%. So, right. You're talking, then that also goes to the crime stats piece, too. Hundreds of thousands of high priority 911 calls that go unanswered, and the explosion in the percentage of them that go unanswered pre-COVID, pre-George Floyd to present. And we'll update the data as we get 24 and 25 numbers. But it gives you a sense of what happened between 2019 and 2024, really, in the city of Chicago. And now we're coming off of it a bit in 2025, a little bit of a regression to the mean. But that doesn't mean that the underlying dynamics have improved very much. Jack in Northwest Indiana.
Morning, Dan. So as a very young kid growing up, I just recall my parents listening to Walter Cronkite every night. And it had a major impact on me because he would end, I'm pretty sure it would end with him talking about what I refer to as the body bag count. How many dead that day in Vietnam, how many killed in action, how many missing.
Yeah.
And I do think that he had a large sway in terms of how people perceived the war to be going. Why not have, if it's not Trump, maybe it's Caroline Leavitt, maybe it's the Attorney General, every press conference you have, no matter what the topic is, you end it by talking about not just Chicago, pick your city, and talk about the deaths that occurred, the murders that occurred that day, because it's not going away. Just like Vietnam, it wasn't going well, and Cronkite called it out. Somebody needs to continuously call it out because this fat guy in the governor's office is doing it for reasons that are so far removed from taking care of the common person in Chicago. It's ridiculous. And the only way you win is a war of attrition by pounding it into the nation, because people forget coast to coast. They don't live in this area. They don't hear it other than what's going on right now. But it needs to be ingrained in everybody's thought process that this is a real problem and it's the fault of the Democrats.
Thanks for the call, Jack. David in Racine.
Yes, I was wondering, could the either removal or modification of the consent decree between the Justice Department and the Chicago Police Department, if that elimination could be a force multiplier in, taking care of the crime situation in Chicago?
Well, I don't. The consent decree is something that the Trump administration walked away from in 1.0, but the city wouldn't. So it's a city problem. It's not a DOJ problem, not under this president. You still have CPD's hands tied with respect to Sanctuary City, with respect to give chase policy, with respect to traffic-related stops, with respect to turnstile justice at the Cook County State's Attorney's Office and with Tim Evans and his band of Cook County judges. This is not a sort of a single thing that you change and it all falls into place. All right, Prime Minister.
Perspicacious, peripatetic Dan Proft, our bleeding heart, hair on fire conservative. I'm very depressed. We brought in that great branding expert from Cracker Barrel to help me rebrand Governor J.B. Lizzo. His real name isn't J.B. Did you know that?
Go ahead. Do I have to really set you up? Go ahead.
We like to be set up. We want this guy to be the next president. And so being seen as an overfed billionaire whose family is funding worldwide transgenderism is not the correct branding. So he's slimming down. He's on the drugs, not the kind that some of those people take. He's on the weight loss drugs. And speaking of crackers, may I speak for a quick moment about affirmative action and skin? Me wife, she works at a corporation, and a white woman who's 60, she looks like she's 60. Her skin is cracked and wrinkled. A Hispanic woman who's 60, she looks like she's 50. Her skin is not so wrinkled and cracked. And a black woman, an African American who's 60, she looks like she's 35 or maybe 40. There's affirmative action in skin. Blacks don't crack. Crackers crack. The white crackers have the wrinkled skin. we don't look so good. And Dan Proft, I'm seeing that you're getting the Florida sun a little bit too much,
Yeah.
if I may say.
Yes. Thank you for your concern about my complexion, PM. Yes. Appreciate that trenchant social commentary. Rolf in Downers Grove.
Dan, great show as usual. I called you last time about the Club Pro guy. I got a new guy for you. Do you know Tom J. Stewart?
I don't offhand.
Instagram. I sent you a text. You've got it over there. It's if recreational golfers had a press conference.
Oh, I've seen this
Awesome.
guy. I've seen this guy. He's funny. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking
really
about.
good.
I didn't know his name,
No,
but I've seen him.
I throw that at you. And then really quickly, on a serious note, I don't know why more people are not talking about the J6ers. You know, I watch on Cowboy Logic on Real American Voice, and they really follow these guys, and they give them their stories, and they give them a place to speak. It's really sad what they have done to these people, like Ashley Babbitt and all the whole thing. And I just don't know why more people are not talking about that.
Thanks for the call, Rolf. Ron in Sycamore.
Hi, Dan. I want to let you know that Lisa Cook is changing her name to Lisa Crook.
All right. Thanks, Ron. James in Naples.
Good morning. You missed a good opportunity to give proper credit to the brilliant mayor of Chicago last week when you mentioned Pat Ryan's devaluation of his condo. When I looked into it, there are many, many condos across Streeterville, North Michigan Avenue, even into the West Loop that are down 25 to 30%. And so the policy is working. The city is becoming much more affordable.
Thanks for the call, James. Bill in Waukegan.
Hey, Dan, thanks for taking my call. Just wanted to say that I was part of the National Guard, and one of our primary duties was crowd control and working with the public in case there was riots. I was called up when the Bulls were winning the championship, and we had to be on alert once just to be able to quell any uprisings within the city. So,
yeah, sure.
You know, everything they say about the National Guard as far as not being prepared and only being a war entity is full of crap. So that's all I want to say. I think we should have them here in Chicago. It's like I don't go downtown anymore, and it's sad because it used to be a great place to go to.
Thanks for the call, Bill. Appreciate it. Since Pat Ryan was brought up, Northwestern, I do have to mention that my axiom that every time Northwestern is in the news, the value of my degree declines was challenged yesterday with the announcement that the Dickensian named president of Northwestern, Michael Schill, who was a complete embarrassment, was resigning. But then I read the addendum. I don't know if you guys caught this. Schill is planning to take a sabbatical, then return to teach and do research at Northwestern Pritzker School of Law. Of course he is. Because the dance of the lemons occurs at that level in academia just as it does with bad teachers in union-controlled K-12 government schools, doesn't it? Dance of the Lemons, a phrase borrowed from Davis Guggenheim's great documentary on K-12 education called Waiting for Superman, if you haven't seen it. And the New York Times headline on this was hilarious. President of Northwestern, a school attacked by the GOP, will resign. Schill was attacked by both the left and the right at Northwestern. The only difference is that it was the GOP whose criticisms were on target. That's the difference. And frankly, the starch in his Oxford was the only thing that kept that impotent, putty-faced mouse of a man standing upright. I'm talking about Schill, and that's why he got hit by traffic going both ways, and why he's been retired to a quiet back office at the law school where he won't be burdened with executive responsibilities or adult decisions. But it doesn't necessarily mean things are going to get better at Northwestern in terms of leadership. So you'll forgive me if I don't participate too vociferously in the celebration like this signals a new era. I doubt it. Quickly, Dawn in Naperville.
Everyone reading Illinois is holding a dyslexia conference in Naperville October 29th and 30th. So if you're a parent, an educator, an administrator, I would highly recommend that you go. I think even Governor Pritzker should go. Because human flourishing doesn't ignore crime, and human flourishing doesn't ignore children who can't read.
Thanks for the call, Dawn. Appreciate that. Okay. We close it out as we do. Chuck from Delavan.
Thank you very much for letting me do this every week. Overfed Billionaire was the name of my high school garage band, one of them. You got the big corn fest up in Darien this weekend. Free corn for everybody. And then head over there from noon to 3 and see the D-Light Duo. And then go over to Doosterbeck's Brewery 1 till 4. And you can catch them over there again. Great dancing. You guys have a great weekend.
All right, Chuck from Delavan to close it out with your social opportunities in and around Chuck from Delavan. Well, all the way down to Darien. Oh, nice to see Chuck be in the western burbs. Thank you for joining us today and all week for Chicago's Morning Answer. Always appreciate the participation in Open Mic Friday as well. Fun and informative. Have a good weekend. It's now 9 o'clock, AM 560, WIND Chicago.
It's disappointing. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. As of the White House economic advisors saying about the jobs report out, showing just 22,000 were created last month. The expectation was 75,000. The unemployment rate ticked up a tenth to 4.3%. Here's what the Labor Secretary, Lori Chavez DeRemer, just told Fox Business.
Jerome Powell should be embarrassed by this report because he has not done his job.
Calling on the Federal Reserve Chairman to cut interest rates like President Trump has been demanding for months.
22,000 jobs underperformed just a bit, but it's still in the positive. Almost 500,000 jobs have been created since the president took office. It's going to take some time.
Hiring for June and July was revised down slightly, but not like the massive revisions lower we got for prior months in the July report, which prompted the president to fire the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. On Wall Street, stocks have been rising despite the morning report, and the S&P 500 hit a new record high. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, a Democrat, warns he'll file a lawsuit as soon as President Trump deploys the National Guard to Chicago to crack down on crime like in Washington, D.C., where the troop patrol has been extended through November. The D.C. Attorney General has gone to court trying to stop what he calls unlawful federal overreach.
White House spokesperson Abigail Jackson, she hit back stating this lawsuit is nothing more than another attempt at the detriment of D.C. residents and visitors to undermine the president's highly successful operations. New numbers here since August 7th. According to the White House, over 1,800 arrests have been made. 16 no gang members have been arrested. 5 missing children have been recovered, and 188 firearms have been seized.
That's Fox's Alexandria Hoff at the White House, where later today, President Trump plans to sign an executive order to rebrand the Department of Defense so they can call it by its old name again, the War Department. And Pete Hegseth will now be referred to as Secretary of War, though it would take an act of Congress to formally change the defense name. America's listening to Fox News.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today will be windy and cool.